Good evening. Hello. Hello. I'd like to welcome everybody to the November 8th meeting of the Milford Planning and Zoning Board. If you would please stand for the pledge and a moment of silence. Thank you. Meg, if you call the roll, please.
Ms. Austin.
Present.
Mr. Cassignoli.
Here.
Mr. Hirsch.
Here.
Mr. Cater.
Present.
Mr. Collegian.
Present.
Mr. Mortimer.
Present.
Mr. Sadi.
Present.
Mr. Zaharidis. He's not here. And Chairman Quish.
Here too. First order of business is 0 Seaview Avenue, Zone R10 approval pursuant to CGS 824 for a permanent drainage easement from the Laurel Beach Association in favor of the City of Milford, Map 9, Block 130, Parcel 44A, and this was postponed from the last meeting. I would just like to say that I'm a member of the Laurel Beach Association and I see no conflict to hear this application.
Chairman Quish, I also am a member of the Laurel Beach Association, nor do I see any conflict. Thank you.
Mr. Sulkos, do we have somebody from the city to present this?
It has been postponed.
Okay, well, it was postponed two times, I guess. Thank you for that information. Next order of business is 147, 155 Broad Street, Zone MCDD. Petition of Metro 135 LLC for a site plan review and a lot consolidation for Phase 2 of Metro on Broad Street of Map 054, Block 394, Parcels 11 and 12, of which Metro 135 LLC and 147 Broad Street LLC are the owners. The applicant has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is John Nuff. I'm an attorney at 135 Broad Street here in Milford, and I'm here tonight on behalf of Metro 135 LLC as the applicant and 147 Broad Street LLC as a property owner. This is a site plan application for Phase 2 of Metro on Broad. I think anyone knows or has been spending time on the green is that Phase 1 has been a resounding success from any perspective. The architecture and landscaping are beautiful, is entirely sensitive to the property's history, and it has injected an entire new life into the green, as those of us who get to witness it on a daily basis can attest. The second phase will bring that same level of care and attention to detail to a property that both deserves it and candidly needs it. With me this evening are Ron Wasmer, professional engineer, John Wicko, the architect, in a first, my partner David Schlossberg, and also our client Blake Smith. As I noted, this is just a site plan application, which is an administrative act. So I could simply say that the plans comply with all relevant regulations, including the MCDD regs, perhaps refer you to David Sulkos' memo and be done, but that would be doing a disservice to the proposal and to the board. I'm sure you all know that the subject parcel at 147 to 155 Broad Street was the location of our law firm for many years, going back to 1979. David and I and all of our colleagues over many years, including our partner Lou Hurwitz, who first acquired the property, have relished our location on the green, its natural beauty, its history, and its role as a symbolic heart of the city. We not only always wanted to be part of the city of Milford and in the city of Milford, but of the city of Milford. And the only place where we could do that was on the green. And that's why when the building in 147 started to show its age, as it has for many years, we really tried to figure out a way to rehabilitate and renovate that building because we were determined not to leave the green. But we were faced with a building that has a crumbling stone foundation, an archaic heating system, and windows that were literally falling out of the walls. Several architects whom we engaged over the years made us confront the twin facts that bringing the building into the 21st century was nearly impossible, and that while the building has its charms, maybe at least to us, it really has no historic or architectural value. That's why when we had the opportunity to move into the Simon Lake House and help bring it back to life, we were intrigued. And we were gratified when we saw the plans for Metro's vision for the 147 property, that the 155 building would be maintained, that the architecture of the proposed buildings pay homage to the existing building. And at that point, we knew that the charm and character of the green and the city that we cherish would be preserved and enhanced. The nuts and bolts of this application are very straightforward. It proposed the addition of a total of 22 residential units, so a total of 98 over the 2 phases, 4,250 square feet of new commercial floor space, 17,730 of commercial space over both phases. We proposed the merging of the 2 parcels and eliminating the curb cut at 147 Broad. Is fully compliant with regard to parking. We have approval from all city departments, and as David's memo notes, we comply with all relevant regulations. To take you through the plans quickly, I want to bring up John Wicko, and I think my partner David Schlossberg wants to speak, but I think this is a very straightforward application, and I know we have other things going on, and we don't need to belabor it. John?
Thank you. Good evening. John Wicko, architect, office at 58 Prospect Street. John did a wonderful job. I can take half of my sheets and just rip them up. So one thing I did want to mention was the front yard is in compliance with the average left and right of 100 feet. That was a line that's on SP2, I think. I was going to go page by page, Dave, but I think I'm going to just kind of accelerate through the site and just point out things of that John didn't talk about. In reference to the zoning data, some of the key aspects are the buildings are 2.5 story. The front of 147 is 36 feet, where 40 foot is allowed. I'll refer to the buildings by address. And 151 is 33 feet, where 40 feet is allowed. We're well under the floor area ratio. Parking, John went over. I can answer questions if you have any. Landscape certainly complies and exceeds the requirements with over 500 plantings. I'm counting a little Pachysandra too, so that I just totaled up the landscape total from the schedule. We talked about the MCDD and how the buildings meet the design standards that are set forth, adaptive reuse, and some of the buildings there. We are taking 147 down due to the notions that John talked about. Site lighting matches the existing phase 1 development we just have a single pole, and then we have sconces on the buildings that light the driveway that comes in to access the parking, which is under the buildings. The architecture, we're replacing 147, adding 151, and maintaining 155, 153. The first floor have commercial space and parking under the buildings, with residential on the second floor, and in the half story we have residential also within dormers and roof lines. We designed the buildings in a much smaller scale to fit in from the green that matches the architecture that's on the green in a traditional style, using a lot of the elements of the Simon Lake Mansion, which I can point out as we go further. The 147, we thought it was important to incorporate an entry porch. There is the sidewalk that goes from the street into the front entrance, which we're maintaining. We also have a side entrance for the pedestrians through the site and from the cars. Second floor residential as scheduled on the drawings. A1, A2, A3. Elevations, you can see the attention to detail A3 for building 147. 2.5 story. The third floor housing the residential units within dormers, keeping the scale down. The materials include the parking is a embossed stone that's rendered with some architectural stucco that's on an intermediate portion of the building, and clapboard and shingle siding at the front of the 147. 151 has a lot of the elements also from the Simon Lake Mansion octagon turret, which resembles their sunroom, engage bays at the rear, very similar to what we did on Building 3 with the sawtooth roof lines that were part of his lab that was in the back. And Building 155, existing height is about 25 feet. We're going to renovate the interior. The existing first floor 2-bedroom is going to be updated with modern and aesthetically pleasing interiors. And the second floor is converted from an office to a 2-bedroom also. And we have drawings that depict that side by side, so if you wanted to kind of compare where we are, but really not much in terms of code compliant renovations that were required. That's a quick overview of the buildings, and I'll certainly answer any questions if you have them moving forward.
Thank you. Any questions at this point? Yeah, Mr. Sadie.
Good evening, Mr. Wicko.
Yes, hi.
Again, I like the work you're doing. It's excellent.
Thank you.
But just for the record, we got a lot on our plate today.
Sure.
How many underground parking spots?
We have 16 under building, not underground.
yeah.
16 spaces.
And then you indicated that it's designed for commercial space
Yes.
on the first floor, and then you talked about second floor apartments, and then you talked about dormers.
Yes.
How many on the second floor and how many on the third floor again?
It's scheduled on the drawings. The exact number I don't recall.
Okay.
I know Building 151, there's 3 and 3. And on Building 147, I think there's 22 total in that
Okay,
building.
that's
So
right.
small
I thought I
numbers.
heard. And of those, and maybe you're just doing the design work.
Right.
Are they roughly the size of them all the same on the second floor and the third floor all the same?
They vary. There's different
Okay.
types, different bedrooms, and different areas.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Wicko.
You're welcome.
Any other questions at this time? Nope.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I know there's a lot of business to come before the board. I just wanted to say that, it's going to be 30 years in January that I'm driving up and down High Street to get to my office on the Green, and it was very important that we stay. And with health permitting, I hope I'm there a lot longer. My office literally is 100 feet from the construction that we're talking about, and it's progress. It's wonderful for downtown. We're really delighted to be part of it, and so we just ask you, to grant the application, and so that we can have the progress downtown and enjoy it. So thank you very much.
David, your name and address for the record.
Oh, David Schlossberg, 14 Honeysuckle Lane, Milford, 135 Broad for for the office.
Thank you.
That's all we have, Mr. Chairman. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Anything from the board? Mr. Sadi?
Thank you. I was going to give the question to Attorney Schlossberg. I'll give it to you. Of the 22 units, and I know an excellent partner in the city, in downtown, where there's consideration of affordable housing, because that becomes a problem, as you recognize, 22 units with none of them being affordable don't help our numbers.
No, we are not proposing any to be affordable.
I understand you're not proposing it. What is their consideration of it, however?
There's no consideration. Listen, I'm fully aware that recently the commission approved our application at the mall. That included affordable. The project at the Kmart, both of those included legislative acts. Both of those affordable could be baked into the system. This is simply a site plan application. We fully comply with all your regulations. The MCDD regulations do not require any affordable units, and we're not proposing any affordable units.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, let me just, I'd hear a motion.
Okay. I move to approve as presented the petition of Metro 135 LLC for a site plan review and lot consolidation for Phase 2 of Metro on Broad Street on map 54, block 394, parcels 11 and 12, of which Metro 135 LLC and 147 Broad Street LLC are the owners.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Mr. Cater? David, I did not ask if you had any perspective you wanted to share.
No, because Mr. Nuff referenced my report. I mean, I can go through it, but the end result is the design of the buildings is compliant with the guidance of Appendix B, and the proposed project is zoning compliant.
Thank you. So we have a motion, a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Mr. Sadi.
Thank you very much. An excellent presentation by Attorney Nuff again and his parties. And I understand your position that there's no requirement of affordable housing, but at some point I think that as a city we have to make sure we're looking at this at all times. I understand your project is small. I don't find a reason to deny it, but I just want to make the public statement we have to be considerate of affordable housing. And thank you for the presentation. I'm ready to vote at appropriate time.
John Mortimer.
Just for the record, I'd like to second Mr. Sadi's thought there. We definitely need to consider affordable housing at every turn, and I hope Metro will consider that.
Great, thank you. With no other comments or questions, Meg, if you would call the roll.
Ms. Austin?
With the motion.
Mr. Castagnoli?
Yes.
Mr. Hirsch?
With the motion.
Mr. Cater?
With the motion.
Mr. Gleason?
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer?
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi?
With the motion.
And Chairman Question.
I'm also with the motion. Good luck with your project. Next order of business is a public hearing, proposed regulation change 23-6, petition of Kevin Crusading Esquire for change to Article 3, District Use Regulations Section 5.3, Office District. The same application or the same project has 0305-325 Subway Zone OD, petition of Kevin Crusading Esquire for special permit with site plan review and lot consolidation to construct a 160,000 square foot warehouse on map 41, block 303, parcels E, F, and G, of which Subway Subs, Inc., Bick Drive Realty 2, LLC, and Subway Subs 2, LLC are the owners. I would believe you would like to would you like to bundle these and present both together?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think that would be
That's why I read them
most
both. I
efficient.
kind of
Yes, sir.
made that
Yeah.
presumption.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so the applicant has the floor.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Kevin Crusading. My office is at 3 Lafayette Street, Crusading and Moore here in Milford. With me this evening is Mr. Bob Cinto, Mr. Robert Cinto, Pat Rose, the architect for the project, Manny Silva, the project engineer, Bill Kenny, the soil scientist and landscape architect. Also here tonight is Mr. Donald Snyder and I think Mr. Nick Bauer from FCP Euro, who would be the proposed end user tenants of this site if it was to be approved. Both the zone text amendment and the site plan special permit. So I'm very fortunate, I feel very fortunate and grateful to be here for a number of different reasons. It's a great project for the city. I also have a history of working at this site when right prior to going to law school and growing up here in Milford, knowing the history and the legacy of the Subway franchise world headquarters and the success story. It's an excellent opportunity for Milford to transition from one Milford success to another Milford success with FCP Euro, which you'll hear a lot more about them this evening. I'm going to keep my comments brief, and I'm going to try to keep them to about 5 points and then hopefully answer some questions. I, as a resident taxpayer and also just having a lot of friends working at Subway, I was concerned what was going to happen with the site after I heard that it was moving. And so I was excited to get contacted by Mr. Cinto and be part of this project. Like I said, it's a tremendous opportunity for the city, and it's a tremendous opportunity to keep jobs in the city and in the state as well. So we started this process, just as a little bit of a background, we started this process with the Zoning and Wetlands Roundtable meeting, which is occasionally the DPLU is more than willing to offer, and we took advantage of that. But that started back in February of this year, 2023. I will be followed, after I give my points, I'll be followed by Pat Rose, Manny Silva, Bill Kenny, and then Mr. Snyder and also Mr. Cinto. So just brief background, as you pointed out, Mr. Chairman, for what we're here for tonight. Zone text amendment is one of the applications, and the board's role in zone text amendment is, as you know, the board acts in a legislative capacity. You have wide latitude and discretion within to decide about what your zoning regulations are going to say. The guiding parameters of a zone text amendment are, is the proposed zone text amendment in accordance with the comprehensive plan of development? That's one of the concerns. And one of the other considerations is you use the POCD or the Plan of Conservation and Development as a guide. So what we're asking for this zone text amendment is to allow a warehouse use in this office district zone for properties that meet certain criteria. So the certain criteria is the property shall have a parcel, be a parcel with an existing office building, and I'll get into why that's, I've had that in the zone text amendment in a minute. Parcel shall be located within 1,500 feet of an access ramp to or from the Interstate 95 road system, as measured from a parcel property line to an access ramp, and the parcel shall consist of at least 9 acres. And the reason for the first parameter, first criteria of existing office building is because this is to recognize, or part of this zone text amendment and the reuse of this site is recognizing the fact that that large office use is on the decline, if not, whether it's going to come back in Connecticut or not, but I'll let Mr. Cinto and others speak about that briefly. So we're looking for a way to reuse this site with something that is needed in Milford and which is also needed for the economic health of Milford and to keep jobs here in Milford, but also to recognize the fact that not every reuse of a site is going to be residential. You also need your plan of conservation and development, and your comprehensive plan recognizes you need a balanced inventory of properties to help with the tax base. So that's what we're bringing it for, to allow the warehouse use, and that's what we've designed this zone text amendment. So this zone text amendment will create an opportunity for consolidation of 2 existing currently operating facilities here in Milford, both owned by FCP Euro. One is at 500 Bick Drive, which is about a quarter mile as the crow flies from the 325 subway property. I don't know if Mr. Solkis has that presentation available that he can pull up, or there's an AV, if the AV is working, the monitor's working. I also have the,
Mr. Kassam?
yeah,
So you had mentioned earlier when we spoke to that you were going to have a computer to plug in. Do you not have that? Do you want me to?
if you have it, I just thought
I
it
have
would be
it, I
easier.
have it.
Yeah, that would
I
be
have
great. Either the PowerPoint or the PDF would be great. Thank you, sir. So, Mr. Sulkus is just bringing up a brief, that's our site right there, the proposed site. You can see OD Office District is in the vicinity. One of the existing locations is 500 Bick Drive, which I said is about a quarter mile as a crow flies from this site. So there's truck traffic already going down this road and into 500 Bick Drive. There's also a site located at 155 Hill Street. That site is in the CDD1 zone. It also abuts Clark Hill Road, or I think Clark Street, and it's nestled in amongst some other uses, including residential across the street. And the 500 Bick Drive location is also, it's in a, I think, limited industrial zone, but it's also abuts residential use. And it's also abutting an office district zone parcel. So each of these locations is about 50,000 square feet. I think one's 50,000 and the other is 55,000 or so. FCP Euro has been in Milford since at least 2013, 2014 timeframe. The proposal would consolidate the headquarters and consolidate the two warehouses into one building. It's reducing the overall amount of traffic from this business to one of the locations. The compliance with the comprehensive plan, which is really the town's zoning regulations and zoning map, is where you are to where you want to go is one of the things that you're looking at as far as the economic health and development of the town, which is one of the key criteria or purposes of the zoning regulations when you look at Article 1, which I've supplied a copy to the board, but I'm sure you're familiar with. So the requirement to be in accordance with the comprehensive plan is generally satisfied when the zoning authority, in this case, this is your board, acts with the intention of promoting the best interests of the entire community or the community as a whole. And there's case law that cites that, one of those cases being a Morningside case versus the Milford Planning and Zoning Board, I think from the 70s. So the board can decide whether something's in accordance with the comprehensive plan or not. And in this case, we believe it's clearly in accordance with the comprehensive plan because it's in the best interests of the entire community to keep jobs in Milford, to reuse a site that could remain vacant for many, many years. I know that some of the other office sites in Milford have been vacant for a long period of time. We're trying to avoid this site going dark like that. The other point I want to make is the Plan of Conservation and Development, which is another strategic document that the board uses. It's a guide for the board to consider, and in this case, this project is in accordance with the Plan of Conservation and Development because there's a future land use map that shows in your future proposed POCD, your draft POCD, that shows this corridor between, I think, West Ave and Naugatuck Ave as proposed to either be residential, business, or industrial use. And I don't think that this proposed use is necessarily an industrial use, but it is, it's definitely within the realm of the business or a lighter industrial use. So, we have, we believe that strongly that it's in accordance with this, the Plan of Conservation and Development, both the existing or the one that recently expired and the proposed. Generally speaking, the regulations that we have submitted, we have gone through a few different iterations of those. They are what we consider to be in the final form, and they're geared toward allowing this type of use in an OD zone on a property that meets the criteria that I mentioned at the beginning of the hearing. Should have mentioned up front that all of the proper notice requirements have been met. We've received inland wetlands approval. We had several public hearings through inland wetlands, and the project kind of was revised and changed a little bit for the better after the public comment for that. We have fire marshal approval. The engineer comments are satisfied. Mr. Sulkus has provided his, or the DPLU or his administrative summary. We believe we've answered all of those questions in there. The design professionals will be talking about that briefly, and pending your questions, that completes my discussion.
Thank you.
Presentation.
Is there any questions at this time? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Patrick Rose from Rose Tizo and Company, 35 Brentwood Avenue in Fairfield, Connecticut, the architect for the project. What we're looking at today is a 10.1652 acre site, which meets the criteria for the 9 acres for the text amendment. Was the previous subway headquarters, and it had 2 buildings on it, which had about 107,000 square feet of building and over 500 parking spaces. So it was a well-developed site, very, very dense, with impervious surface. Currently, what we're looking at doing with our site plan is there are 2 accesses off of Subway, one to the north, one to the south. The access from the north, we're going to maintain. The access from the south, closer to 95, we're going to move further south, closer to the ice pavilion, actually, to give us a better access around the building. What we'll be doing is having access on that south driveway for trucks that would go around the building. Then they would dock on the north side of the building, as you can see on the loading docks, pops back up, the angled loading docks, and 4 drive-in doors to the building. The existing wetlands that are on the site, we are not touching, we're not filling, we're not doing anything to them. We've been to wetlands and had an approval in wetlands with some conditions, which we will meet. The current proposed warehouse facility is 160,000 square feet. The building itself is about 700 by 222 feet, in a rectangle. There are 20 loading docks on the north side, and then with the 4 drive-in doors, 2 on either end of the building. Car parking will be off Subway, and it will be, majority of the parking will be along Subway in 2 lots, one directly in front of the building, one just to the north of our entrance on the north side. Then we have some parking also to the rear of the building and to the side by the loading dock, more for employees that are associated with the trucks and truck traffic and the warehouse itself. Based on the review of the fire marshal, we've adjusted the driveway to 26 foot wide per his requirements. That's been done. And what we've seen is that all of the, thank you, sir, appreciate it. The zoning works for all, the text amendment works for our building completely. Everything, we meet that part of the OD zone with the text amendment. Let me do this. As I had said, the building is 700 feet in length. Is this working? No, it's not working. 700 feet in length, 222 feet in width, and there are the 20 loading docks on the north side. the drive-in doors on this end and on this end. We have about 4,000 square feet of office space in the front of the building, which equates to the parking lot that's out in the front of the building. What we're doing for the building itself is that we're constructing the building out of cast-on-site concrete panels, which will be tilt-up. So each one of these is a tilt-up panel. And they will be tilted up on a steel frame. The buildings will be painted. The concrete will be painted with epoxy-type paint, very durable. Actually, there's a building that was built like this just recently in Stratford on Lordship Boulevard. What we're doing is on the front elevation, we've got, this is the main entrance to the office space with glass windows on either side. There's a glass canopy over the top of those entrance. And then if you flip that over for me. Thanks. On the south side of the building, we have the panels. Each panel has a large window, clear story window up high as it goes along the building. And then on these are the 20 loading docks on the north side of the building with the drive-in doors. One more, Manny. And then the rear elevation, again, has clear story window in each one of the panels as it goes across the building. Fairly simple, straightforward. And that's it for the building. I'll have Manny Silva from my office, civil engineer, go through the site plans. Work. No, it's all right. So,
I like to be mobile. So Manny Silva from Rose T-Zone Company, 35 Brentwood Avenue, Fairfield, Connecticut. The civil engineer registered in the state of Connecticut. Good evening. So as Pat started to talk about how the location of the project, I just want to go back to the existing conditions so we can kind of see where we're starting here. So the project today has basically an existing building here in the front by Subway, and then the main headquarters building, which is here in the back, just adjacent to Mondo Pond, and that's why we had to go to the Wetlands Agency where we got an approval for the overall project. You can see here that there's a large parking field in between the two buildings. Essentially, the whole site is a paved parking lot for the most part, and then there's a driveway here that bisects between two wetland areas. The project proposes the warehouse that Pat just went over. Basically, our circulation is coming right off of Subway, and the footprint of the project more or less is over the existing parking lot. I mean, there are some areas where we are, where the asphalt is going to be removed, like areas right here and around the back. This is where the existing building is right here today. But essentially, the whole site is a paved parking lot, and we're just going to replace it with a larger roof and some adjacent parking spaces. So we have a small parking area here in the front with EV chargers, 18 of them along this. This is the west side of this parking area. We have another employee parking area here in the back, the 20 spaces for the tractor trailer parking. We have some drive-in ramp areas, so these are roll-up doors that the vehicles can come in and out at grade. And you have another employee parking area here, and then one here in the front. Overall, the site the grade is from the road down and pitches down towards the back. Essentially, with being a warehouse, the warehouses has to be essentially level along the loading dock. So as we come in, we'll be at grade similar to what there is there today, where the building is here. But then, as you work your way back, it'll come down matching grade as the parking lot does today. But then we'll be picking up the elevation here, and then this will be essentially flat with a trench drain in this area. So the goal in the state of Connecticut, in the regulations in Milford, are to basically collect, to reduce the amount of volume that the rain right now falls on the parking lot and goes into catch basins and then into Mondo Pond uncontrolled. So what we're doing, our system will actually collect the stormwater in various catch basins throughout the proposed site, and we have 2 underground gallery systems. The water will go into those catch basins, and then they'll have a hooded outlet on them to stop any oils or bottles or anything floating in the water from going downstream. And then we have essentially 2, actually we have 3 on site, stormwater quality units, which are these units in our treatment train to further reduce the amount of particulates that are suspended in the water and trap them there, and then also trap any additional hydrocarbons like oils and grease, things of that nature, in those units. And then from there, the water is put into 2 systems, one here and one here, which are comprised of 600 lineal feet of concrete galleries, which will be under the parking lot, and there'll be basically like a large tank under the parking lot to hold the water and then slowly infiltrate it into the ground, so that the water that's been cleaned already through the treatment train, which is the hooded catch basins and then the stormwater quality units, that water will then sit there, cool itself down, and then infiltrate into the ground and into the groundwater where it's further filtered. And what that achieves is basically a reduction in stormwater runoff downstream so that we can reduce any kind of reduce any flooding from the existing condition today. So during the 2-year storm, we're reducing the flow off a site by 29%. At the 5-year storm, it'll be 35% reduction. At the 10-year storm, we're reducing the amount of water coming off the site from today by 32%. At the 25-year storm, it'll be 18%. And at the 50-year storm, it'll be 8% and 2% at the 100-year storm. So what does that mean? That means that today there's more water being discharged downstream and basically in large storm events, creating flooding conditions, but we'll be reducing that. While we're doing that, we're also increasing the water quality. So the amount of water that is being discharged from the site will be at a higher quality than it is today, because right now we have a large parking lot where cars, drip oil and things of that nature, hydrocarbons, grit, sand, and goes into that system, and then it gets conveyed into Mondo Pond and other things downstream. With this proposal, we increase that water quality by trapping all those pollutants within our treatment train, and that's what was presented in front of the Wetlands Commission, and they agree that it is protecting the Mondo Pond ecosystem and the wetlands adjacent to the property. So during construction, we actually have a soil erosion control plan, and what that is, I could go over the utilities, but basically the utilities are, the water lines are coming in from the front, the gas line, and then we have our electrical service to the charging units, but that's the boring stuff. So the further protect the site during construction, we have this soil and erosion control plan, which is basically a way to stop any kind of pollutants to go into adjacent properties or into adjacent wetlands while we're under construction. So when the site's disturbed, we're excavating is dirt. So if a rainstorm should happen during construction, and this is just a big open area with, where the asphalt has been removed, there's an unstable condition there, so mud could be washed out off the site. So what we do to protect the areas around us during construction is by putting a reinforced silt fence around the whole perimeter of the disturbance, the area to be disturbed, which is a black silt fence that you see during construction sites, and then we have hay bales behind it to reinforce it, so if a big rush of water hits it, it doesn't fall over. At the entrances, we have a anti-tracking pad, which is large stones put near the roadway so that when trucks come in and off the site, it doesn't track any mud into the road itself. Those large stones knock the mud off the wheels, and it keeps it on site, and you don't see that. You won't see any mud tracked onto subway. Then we have silt sacks, which are these the black fence that you see around the perimeter of the site, but also placed inside the catch basins as we build them on site, and that's so that if there is a rainstorm and there's mud and things on site because we haven't paved or stabilized it with vegetation, that water and turbid water goes into those silt sacks, it filters out that mud, and then when the site is complete, where we have everything stabilized, we pull those sacks out, and then our system is clean, ready to go from day one without any contaminants in the system itself. So I'll just go briefly, these are the landscaping plans, but Bill Kenny will go over those in detail. And then we have our standard details. Actually, we have our lighting plan, and the lighting plan is it's going to be LED blades with full cutoff shields, so that no light is being projected outside of the property line. So that we have no light spillage off of this property. It's just illuminating our paved areas. Nowadays, it's really easily controlled. As you can see here, we have a total of 20 feet high with a 2-foot pedestal. We have our pole, and then it'll have like this exactly D-series kind of blade LED fixture, which will just project downward, and they are dark sky compliant, so you don't have any light pollution going up into the sky. Then we have our standard details. Again, here's our silt sacks that I was talking about, which is basically a black filters fabric fence inside the actual catch basins. That's only temporary during construction. Here's our silt fence with the hay bale behind it to protect any flow coming off the site during construction and washing into neighboring properties or into Mondo Pond itself. Here's our anti-tracking pad detail, which is basically to get the mud off of the tires. We have our full narrative here and phasing for construction. We have our detail, or Milford's detail for striping on the property, and this is our details for sidewalks, handicap ramps, signage, concrete pads. We do have two areas where we use a small retaining wall, and this is just going to be a gravity block wall, kind of like what you see in landscaping settings. It's just blocks set up on top of each other. It's not necessarily like a structural retaining wall or anything like that. I think there's another detail sheet, but again, this is just our hydrodynamic separator, which is our filter, which will stop oil and grit from going into our gallery system, and therefore increasing our water quality on site. So now I'm going to turn it over to, if there's any questions from the commission, I'll turn it over to Bill Kenny.
Good, Mr. Sadi.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. I want to talk about the tractor-trailer base, if we could, please.
Yep.
Indicate there's 20 of them, and the distance, if we have 20 trucks parked there, to the width of the roadway, or it's hard to see on our documents. We definitely cannot see it from there, but so you got all 20 trucks parked there. What's the space in case a fire truck's got to come through or multiple fire trucks got to come through?
So what we have, the fire marshal asked us to have a circulation around the whole building of at least 26 feet. So we achieved that here, 26 feet around this access way around the south side, and then the area in front of the tractor-trailer parking will be 38 feet.
Okay.
So it'll be even wider, and that's for maneuvering space for the trucks themselves. The fire truck needs 26 feet because the truck itself is about 10 and a half, and then it has outriggers, and those require 26.
Are there any fire suppression items out in the tractor bays at all?
So the building is fully sprinklered, and then we have, in the SP2A, the fire marshal required us to have a hydrant here, one somewhere here, and then I think there's one way back here, two back here, actually. So the fire marshal wanted us to have the hydrants around the building, not just because if there was a fire in the building, but every fire marshal I talk to say they put out cars and things of that nature more than they do buildings. So the concern was to have enough fire hydrants to connect and put out any vehicles, I guess.
Thank you, and just,
Yep.
you might see, but many members of the board are looking at a pad or a phone. We don't have the screen working now, so
Correct.
it's hard when we try to move them around to see the numbers.
Yeah,
I appreciate
I
that.
would-
Thank you very much.
I normally have 8.5 by 11s, or 11 by 17s they hand out, but I thought they would be on the screen, so.
But you're doing a good job so far. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions at this time? No, applicant
All
continue.
right, thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Bill Kenny, our landscape architect. You want this, or put it there?
Good evening. I'm Bill Kenny. I'm the principal of William Kenny Associates in Fairfield. I'm a professional landscape architect and a wetland scientist. Our firm was involved with several pieces of the project, identifying wetlands on and near the property and helping develop the project in such a way that we could protect those wetlands, assisting with the wetland permitting, and then ultimately preparing a landscape plan for the entire property. The plan has two primary pieces. One that I want to call is the classic landscape. It's a landscape that has, for example, we have street tree plantings along the front to provide that streetscape experience as you drive by the development. And we have screening plantings, evergreen plantings up in the northwestern corner here around the parking lot there. We have plantings around the buildings. We have tree plantings in and around the parking and drive areas. So those are all the typical classical plantings that you see on many of your projects. And it is required by your code, so we're complying with the code with regard to those plantings. The other type of planting that we have is what I call a habitat enhancement planting. So we have quite a bit of forest restoration along the perimeter of the property, as well as a wetland area that's in the western central portion of the property close to Subway. So that's an existing wetland that we're expanding and improving through quite a variety of plantings. In total, we have about 1,500 plants, 99% native plants to the northeast. About just over 300 of those are trees, just over 200 are shrubs, and just over 900 are ground cover plantings that are of decent size. They're going to be gallon plantings, and again, they're 99% native. The 1% that we're using that is not is an evergreen tree that we're using that is not invasive, but it's helpful in the situation that we need to use it. There's very little lawn on the property, so it's really going to be heavily landscaped and very beneficial to the environment with all the use of native plants that we're using. Be pleased to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Sadie?
Thank you very much for your presentation. Do you have, as part of the work you did, do you know how many plantings are going to be taken down to put the building up, trees? I'm more concerned with, do you know that?
I don't have that number handy. I might have it in my notes I could look through. While some of the other folks proceed on, and maybe I can jump back.
That's okay. But the point is that there's a substantial amount of planting the building's going to take over that space.
Right.
Okay.
Again, with this being a redevelopment, most of the development is occurring in areas that's already pavement or existing building.
And if you could just explain your process briefly to us as how you try to compensate for, say, the loss of vegetation, more importantly, trees, to make sure that it's somewhat, because you're right near Mondo Ponds.
Yes. Yep. And the habitat type planting that I'm discussing is mostly occurring along that northern area of the property, with Mondo Ponds is just north of the site on that town open space. So we looked at this closely, worked closely with the wetland agency to develop the planting in this area. But you'll see in this area right here, around this parking, it's all forest restoration. So we're using native trees and putting in trees at a high density, so like 15 feet on center, to mimic the conditions you find in a forest. For example, your regulations suggest trees maybe 30 or 40 feet on center and slightly larger, but in a forest you'll find trees in a young forest, they'll be very close on center. And so they grow together to form one large canopy, and so that's the way we've planted this habitat restoration, with many trees close together.
Thank you for answering my questions, and Mr. Chair, thank you for letting me ask the questions.
Thank you. Any other questions at this time? Thank you. You can continue.
My name is Bob Cinto. My offices are located at 1 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut. And I'm the applicant here. We bought this property from Subway because they moved up to our office park. The reason they moved up to the office park is that they couldn't get anyone to come to work there. The office market in Connecticut is difficult, and in this area is very difficult. At 440 Will Road, there was an auction on an office building that no one showed up for. There's over 1 million square feet of empty office space in Milford today. And we own 52 office buildings. So if I thought there was any chance of renting this office building, I wouldn't be here tonight, okay? So the building has no value any longer. I mean, Fred DeLuca, who built it, he owned the company. He says, this is where you're going to come to work. He came to work. So, so that's the reason why we're here, basically. I'd like to thank my attorney, who has done a very nice job. I'd also like to thank Dave. He was able to review everything and get his punch list that we worked on diligently. And I really do appreciate the opportunity to just say a couple of words, and then I'll turn it over, okay? One is that I think we did a very good job with the pond and the wetlands. This was a site that had at one time 1,200 cars come in there with no ability to screen the oil and the grease coming off that parking lot. It went right into the pond. We have a plan here with sophisticated oil separators and an area of retention of the water, so that at the end of the day, this is a major improvement to the pond and to the wetlands, okay? Remember, the roof of this building is 160,000 square feet, and no one is parking on the roof. So that water is very clean, and the rest of the water, we're doing a very good job, and you've heard what we're doing on the wetlands. So I think that's a major improvement. The other thing is, I'm so lucky to have this tenant. This tenant already is in your town. They've been grown in this town. They have jobs in this town. And they're already using this road for their warehouse at the end of the street. So this is going to be the same traffic that we've had before, but in a new facility. So it'd be much better, and it gives the town the ability to cut down on the traffic, less traffic, because instead of 2 facilities, it'll be 1, and it's already there anyway. So I think that's a real plus too, okay? And I very much appreciate the effort, the time that you've given me to just to explain why I think it's a terrific project for the town. And I'd like to just call on Mr. Snyder. He'll talk about the company itself. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Don Snyder. I'm joined tonight by our president and founder, Nick Bauer. We'd like to give you a little bit of an overview of FCP Euro and why this facility is so special to us. A little bit of background before I turn it over to Nick. I was born in 1986. I grew up in Milford. I went to Orange Ave, and when I went to St. Mary's. One of the things that I was most proud of growing up in this town was the heritage of what Subway stood for. It put a map on the town. It was always something that I could tell my family about, friends about as I continued to grow, and it's something I always remembered. I joined FCP Euro a little over 7 years ago. We were a $30 million company. Nick will give more information about the history. This past year, we are going to surpass $200 million in sales. FCP Euro is on a path to be a $1 billion company, of which a lot of that growth will come from our ability to expand into the West Coast. We have multiple facilities throughout the country. Many of you may have seen, but we've expanded into a facility in Mesa, Arizona. Our ability to achieve those growth expectations will come from supplying volume through those additional facilities. Milford will always remain as a goal, our location and our primary headquarters. That's our goal, to be as disruptive to our employee workforce, and it's something that we look forward to with this project and its opportunity.
Thank you, Don. Thank you for the time tonight. I can't believe it's been 23 years since we started FCP Euro. We first started in Groton, Connecticut, moved to Old Saybrook, and in 2013 we moved to Milford and really found our home. In 2013 we came here with 25 employees, and I'm proud to say that we have 230 now in the state of Connecticut. Our main goal, as Don mentioned, is to not disrupt that employee base. We have a lot of jobs in this area, and we really found this town to become our home for many of the employees.
A couple other elements just about the workforce that we have here in Connecticut. So in Milford alone, we have 31 employees. Of that represents nearly $3 million in annual wages. Our workforce really appreciates what the community and town represent, a place where they can raise potential families, a place where they can grow, a place where they can go out to eat, a place that they see as not just a place to go to work, but a place that they are proud to tell and bring their own friends. FCP Euro operates within the automotive aftermarket. It's an e-commerce retailer, so we sell replacement parts to people that are repairing their European vehicle. Think of BMW, Audi, Volkswagen. I myself am a member of Milford Yacht Club. A lot of the fellow members, as well as some of them here tonight, are our best consumers because they are people that are like-minded with that. So think about people that are dedicated to their vehicles, dedicated to a passion, and they like to be proud and work on their cars. A couple of the other exciting things about FCP Euro. So we operate in a digital community. So we produce a substantial amount of digital content at our location on Hill Street that allows us to be able to communicate with our consumers worldwide. So we have over 56 million lifetime views, over 300,000 YouTube subscribers on content that we are creating here in the state of Connecticut in our facility in Milford. Of the workforce, we have a very broad workforce that's focused on being able to bring that passion and dedication to people that enjoy working on their European vehicle. We have 200,000 SKUs that we service. We stock in our Milford location roughly 40,000 of those SKUs. That inventory footprint that we have will remain relatively the same at the location that we will go to. A lot of the production and growth within FCP Euro's future will come from geographic expansion. The value of this location is to be able to consolidate and provide efficiency for us to be able to do the work that we're currently doing much faster. Currently, we're operating with a 14-foot clear ceiling or 16-foot. The value of this is that it gives us more space vertically to be able to stock SKUs so that our employees can get work done much faster. We would be consolidating what we're currently doing, which is bringing inventory back and forth on that thoroughfare that we've been talking about tonight, to and from our Hill Street location and our Bick Drive location. Again, the biggest thing that this represents is the ability for us to do and provide our employees a better experience through consolidation of work in a more efficient manner.
One thing that I'll mention is that we're using the Bick Drive facility as our sort facility. So 95% of the inventory that we receive comes in off of 95%. Sorry about that. One thing to mention is that we're using the Bick Drive as our sort facility. So 95% of all inventory that we receive comes in off of 95, goes to Bick Drive, and then we sort it in Bick Drive and then transfer it back to Hill Street on smaller trucks throughout the day.
One other highlight is that we've been looking for facilities for over 3 years now. This is, as much as we've seen and read about that there are multiple locations, this is one of the only locations that has met the specifications of what we're looking for here within Milford, that is as least disruptive to our workforce as possible, being that it's so close and obviously consistent with where we currently are.
Thank you. Is there any questions or comments? Yes, Nancy.
About how many people are, if you get this approved, will be employed there, roughly?
Currently we have 230 people employed in Connecticut. Within that, we have we have a flex schedule, so at any given day, we have about 120 people on our sites currently.
Thank you very much. I believe, Mr. Snyder, you and I know each other going back many years. That be correct?
That would be correct.
Okay, and I just noticed that I have not seen you in a long time, so first and foremost, I would not find any conflict at all whatsoever. But I do have a follow-up question off of Commissioner Austin. Are we increasing the number of employees? I know that you both talked about the employees love Milford, but we increase the number of employees in the city of Milford if we grant this program?
The goal would always be to continue to be able to attract and retain talent here in the state of Connecticut specifically. Yes, it would increase the workforce that we would have. Predominantly, it's going to be a mixture of both warehouse as well as back office functions that are there. This would allow us to be able to attract talent such as a lot of our digital community, so the digital content creation, our marketing teams, our technology teams, our data teams. Our majority of our senior management staff is located within this area. The gradual progression within the distribution center, which is a lot of the larger body of workforce, would most likely grow within those other geographic footprints. But the main focus of growth would be in those back office roles predominantly here in Milford and Connecticut.
And thank both of you for the presentation. I have no further questions. Chairman Quist, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions, Mr. Cater?
You mentioned on Bick Drive, you currently do the sorting, then you bring it over to Hill Street. So if this gets consolidated, you would be reducing city traffic. Is that the intent?
That is 100% the intent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments at this point? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, for the record, Kevin Crusaden, pending your questions, that completes our presentation.
Thank you for that. This is a public hearing. David? What's that? Excuse me. Yep, 1 second. David, when we open the public hearing, we have 2 public hearings to open? So open one, close one, then go to the next one?
That's, I believe, the cleanest thing to do.
Does that make sense to you as well?
Well, I thought that they were both open already.
Well, your presentation is, but in terms of the public hearing.
Oh, the public comment?
Yeah, I just thought that obviously one hinges on the other, but so anyway, I just wanted a clarification.
Whatever is better for the board.
Any further questions?
Attorney Crusaden, good
Yes,
evening.
sir. Good
So
evening.
it's a pleasure to have you in front of us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
One of the things that we try to do our due diligence, and you present a lot of material to us during election week, where half the board is out all day yesterday. I have not made a decision on the application, but is there some reason why we didn't get it before Monday? We got some stuff just today about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mr. Sadi, I'm not sure what information you're referring to, but I originally submitted the application in August.
Correct, but
And so there's been some...
hundreds of pages of documents which are appropriate.
There's been some revisions and some updates, but a lot of the updates are driven by, most recently were driven by questions or comments from Mr. Sulkus, which have either been addressed by the comments tonight or changed the date on the plans from the previous date to this date. So there hasn't been any substantive changes in the past few weeks that I'm aware of.
Okay, and the second thing is that we didn't get a chance to see Mr. Cinto's PowerPoint presentation, and I appreciate the documents, which we all know about most of those buildings, but some of us didn't get that till late in the afternoon. Some of us couldn't even open it up. So it's just it's not your fault, but it comes up enough, and we sometimes want to make sure we've been able to read everything before we make an appropriate decision. But thank you very much.
Right. I can just comment on that presentation that you didn't get to see or that wasn't able to be pulled up on the board. That was just 4 slides of the city GIS map showing the current locations and the proposed locations and the distance between them. So that was discussed tonight. So there wasn't anything further as part of that.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, before we take public comment, is there any further questions of the applicant? Okay, we'll go to the public hearing portion.
Thank you.
If anyone would like to speak to this issue, please come up to the microphone. Please state your name and address for the board and try to keep your comments to about 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard Smith. I live at 59 6th Avenue. So good evening. I offer my comments tonight in my capacity as mayor of this great city. The success or failure of a city depends upon its ability to adapt to the ever-changing world around us. Over the past several years, we have experienced a seismic economic change. The epidemic forced us to reconsider our traditional models of work and life and shopping. And it is broadly understood that the need for office space was one of the fatalities of that epidemic. It dramatically reduced, and in many cases completely eliminated, the need for office space. And as a result, Milford, as well as communities around the country, finds itself with far too many vacant office buildings. It's not too often the mayor comes to speak in favor of a project, and as you know, this is the second time I stood before you over the last month or so. But in both cases, it was responding in reference to the economic changes that were brought upon us by the epidemic. The last was the mall, as you'll recall, and how the new economy has affected retail shopping. It forces us in the city to reimagine and address what do we do to adapt. And in this case, we're recognizing the demand for office space. There are many communities and many towns around the country that are forcing employees to come back to the office. They're passing ordinances in Dallas and in Atlanta, but there's never going to be the demand that there once was. So this change foists upon us, not unlike the challenge we face with the shopping malls. What do we do? What do we do with so many vacant offices? When we received word that Subway was planned to leave its location in Milford and leaving its world headquarters vacant, we were obviously concerned. If you asked me, what will happen to this property? No, better yet, what would be the ideal solution to this problem? I still couldn't have imagined a better response, a better opportunity.
Excuse me. Typically, when we have open hearings like this, we try to limit things to 3 minutes. I know you're going to go beyond 3 minutes, but let's not make it an hour, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Collegian. I don't know, am I a minute and a half in? Anyway, a world-class company. I'll set my watch. You might want to do it on the phone. You got timer, yeah. World-class company, close to the highway, no impacts to schools or sewers or any other burdensome city services. Its developer, Mr. Cinto, is an excellent partner for the city. Being this project is close to Mondo Ponds, which I actually helped bring about. I was on the Conservation Commission in 1991 when we actually created those passive trails and that recreation. And I brought my kids there. So it's a very near and dear space to me. The city of Milford faces pressures from all sides. Cost of operations, goods and services, labor, and everything else have increased dramatically. So we have cost increases. What do? We look for the new revenue streams. We look to attract new businesses before we pass on those costs to residential property owners. The tax revenue would be significant and help defray many of the operational and inflational pressures that are on the city. So I come to you tonight to ask you to approve this application because it is in the best interest of our city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I make one more comment, please?
Sure, go ahead.
This is going to be a long night, guys, and I appreciate it. I like being here, but let's not have clapping and all this stuff. Let's get as much information, real information, not emotional, but facts, figures, and information, so we can make an educated decision. Clapping and all that stuff's great, but enthusiasm's not going to get this done, guys. Facts are. Thank you.
This will be short. My name's Bill Piaccitelli. I'm a resident of Milford. I live at 37 Blair Street. I just want to say that I approve of this project. I think it's going to be great for the city. It's going to keep the jobs in the city and keep our tax base up. That's all. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you much.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Rudolph Castro. I live at 31 Hemlock Drive. I've moved here from Bridgeport about 3 or 4 years ago with my family. I started a family here not too long ago. I have a son, a daughter who's 6 years old who goes to JFK Elementary School. I constantly walk the Mondo Pond Hike Trail all the time. I'm disappointed to see that there's a company that's looking to make a larger impact in the environment, and I'm fearful for the state that we're going to leave the environment after the fact. While I harbor no ill will towards FCP Euro, I understand they want to expand their business. That's perfectly reasonable. All I keep hearing about is the money, how this is going to be a great impact for Milford. What about the families? I can literally step outside my backyard and cross into the training center at Subway, just moving aside some brush. I can hear the trucks, I can hear the trains, I can hear all of that every night. I don't want that to continue. I don't want my family to continue to grow up and losing all this beautiful scenery that's around Mondo Pond. I'm concerned for the lack of shade that we will leave our children in the future. And I'm not sure, because again, I'm not an economist, I'm not a landscaper, I'm not an architect, I'm just a father who moved here from Bridgeport who lived in Stamford, I personally saw what the industrialization and commercialization of Stamford brought, and I'm concerned that Milford's going to go the same way. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Please, again, I would really like to reiterate what Mr. Collegian said, that this is a full house, it's a long meeting, and let's please keep our focus on the applicant and the person that's speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Name is Simon McDonald. I'm with the Milford Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I'm just here to express our strong support for the proposed construction of this new facility by FCP Euro within the city of Milford. This development represents a significant opportunity for our community, and we believe it will bring numerous benefits to our city and its residents. FCP Euro has a distinguished track record as a thriving business and a committed corporate citizen. Their decision to expand their operations in Milford is a testament to the city's attractiveness as a place to do business and create jobs. Here are some of the key reasons we support FCP Euro's project. Job creation. The establishment of a new facility is likely to generate job opportunities for local residents. This will not only contribute to a reduction in unemployment, but will also provide career advancement possibilities for our community members. Economic growth. FCP Euro's presence in Milford will stimulate economic growth. The company's operations, as well as assembled supply chain, are expected to contribute to local business development and increased commerce. Community involvement. FCP Euro has a strong history of community involvement and support. Their presence in Milford is likely to translate into philanthropic efforts, community partnerships, and contribution to local causes. Infrastructure investment. The development of a new facility will necessitate investments in infrastructure, which can be a positive impact on the city's roads, utilities, and overall infrastructure. Tax revenue. The project is expected to generate taxes for the city, which can be allocated to essential services and community development projects. FCP Euro will also bring a positive image. Its presence in Milford will enhance the city's reputation as an attractive place for businesses and investors. This positive image can attract further economic development in the future. Environmental responsibility. FCP Euro has a strong commitment to environmental responsibility. I trust that their facility will adhere to eco-friendly practices aligning with our community's values. In conclusion, we believe the FCP Euro's new facility is an opportunity for Milford to further its growth and development while maintaining its appeal as a desirable place to live and work. I urge the Planning and Zoning Commission to consider these potential benefits when evaluating this proposal. We stand in full support of this endeavor and look forward to witnessing the positive impact it will have on our community. And on a personal note, I was working a golf tournament one year, and my car broke down right outside of FCP Euro, and I pulled in, and I'm driving a Chevy, so they don't fix it at all. But they came out, they gave me looked it over, no charge, found out what was wrong, gave me the materials I needed to fill my crack in my radiator, and sent me on my way. So, personal note.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Lisa Tryon from 1425 Windward Road, and I am speaking against the rezoning of the property on 325 Subway. I'm a retired science teacher, and I previously taught environmental science at Fairfield University. My doctoral degree is in science communication, and research is something that's very important to me. I'm also a hiker, a kayaker, and a volunteer for Milford Audubon and the Nature Conservancy. Mondo Pond Nature Preserve is a well-respected and well-used green space. It's featured in the Milford Plan of Conservation and Development, on Milford's Recreational Spaces website, Milford's Favorite Walks brochure, Connecticut's All Trails website, Connecticut Fish Forum, and perhaps most importantly, on Connecticut DEP's Natural Diversity Database. In DEP's database, Mondo Pond is listed as an important natural community of conservation concern that is home to state and federally listed endangered species. These include dozens of endangered and threatened bird species, bat species, reptile and amphibian species, butterflies and other insects, not to mention wetland plant species. This does not even include the bird species that use Mondo Pond during their winter migration paths. The citizens of Milford have benefited from this beautiful natural habitat, but we are also stewards of this incredible biodiversity, and we need to protect it. Building a 160,000 square foot warehouse with 20 tractor-trailer bays and 170 parking spaces housing a company that currently operates 24/7 is not stewardship. The air pollution, light pollution, noise pollution, potential soil and water pollution from a company that recycles used automotive chemicals is obviously not beneficial for a natural ecosystem. A large area of trees will have to be removed in order to accommodate the parking spaces, and this will create what environmental scientists call an edge effect. Edge effects dry out existing habitat. They introduce more light, more wind, and more heat to an existing shaded wetland area. The noise of trucks, the particulate matter from diesel, and the light pollution at night is obviously not conducive to a nature preserve. And that includes the people who previously enjoyed Mondo Pond as a quiet spot to walk in nature. Industrial warehouses do not belong in an area with precious natural resources. They belong in a zoned industrial area, of which Milford has several. Bick Drive, Oldgate Lane, Woodmont Road, Research Drive, just to name a few. One needs only look at Milford's plan of conservation and development to know that Milford officials say that Milford values its green spaces. I would invite the Planning and Zoning Board to take a site visit, walk its trails, and imagine seeing a 20-bay tractor-trailer warehouse, 40 feet tall, abutting the trails. It's not an experience you might enjoy, and it is certainly not stewardship to do that. I would remind the Planning and Zoning Board that your mission, as stated on your website, is to ensure the health, the safety, and welfare of the community by enhancing and protecting Milford's quality of life through preservation of Milford's unique character and natural environment. Please stand up for Milford's Mondo Pond and reject this misplaced industrial project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I promise I'll be short. I'm Bruce Jackson, 8 Westminster Court, Milford, Connecticut. I work with several municipalities throughout Fairfield County, redeveloping buildings just like this, where if the initial use of a single-use building is abandoned, and it's always a struggle to figure out what we can put back in there. I'm here in favor of this application as a reasonable use of the building going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Estock, 38 Hemlock Drive in Milford. I have a couple questions for the applicant as well as for the architect.
Excuse me. You're very welcome to be here. You need to address the board.
Okay.
It's not...
I have questions for the board. The building hours of operation, can anybody tell me what they are?
I'm sure someone will, not at this exact moment, but we'll get that out.
Okay. Second of all, can somebody tell me the height of the building being proposed?
Okay, you'll get that. I mean, it's on the drawings, but I'll find out and I'll say it out
I don't have the
loud.
drawings in front of me, so I can't tell you what it is, but I'd like to know.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
Okay.
I'll say it out
The
loud.
third thing is I'd like to know what this building is being classified as. Is it an LI? Because if it is, there's some questions with respect to the pole heights. Because I believe Manny said they're 23 feet tall on top of 2-foot stanchions. And I believe the regs require a maximum of 20 feet. So you're non-conforming.
The applicant has submitted drawings that have been reviewed by the city for compliance. So we'll just leave it like that for this moment. Thank you.
I'd like to see the drawings to see if in fact they do conform. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate your attention.
My name is Alan Kohler. I live at 29 Audubon Close. I object and reject this proposal and like to give you a few reasons why. First thing I'd like to do is just give you a handout so we can just take a look at one or two of the pictures in it, and I think that'll direct the conversation.
Go ahead.
One thing more I'd like to do before I give you my comments, and that is to hand you this packet of petitions that we have signatures from 302 of your fellow residents and constituents for objecting to this proposal.
You can just give one copy up here for the record. Thank you.
302 signatures from our fellow residents and constituents saying, please don't do this. With the handout I just handed you, if you can look at page 3, you'll see the most gorgeous picture of Mondo Pond in the autumn. This is what we see, this is what we appreciate, this is what makes this specific area in the town a gem to be protected. The next page, Mondo Ponds, it mentions that there's over 175 bird species have been documented at this special place. This is a very special place and it needs to be protected. Page 6, you can see some of the wildlife that you can see quite commonly at Mondo Pond. There are not just birds, there's also turtles sunning on the rock and there's fishing. But it's particularly page number 8 that I'd like you to take a look at. If we could just look at that for just a moment, I think what you'll see is pretty monstrous. It shows the pond and the trail around it, and it shows in relative proportion what this warehouse is going to do, what it's going to look like, and how it's going to fit in just alongside Mondo Pond. It's like a dagger pointing directly at the heart of Mondo Pond. I heard the explanation about all the various systems that are going to be implemented to make sure that the water is cleaner. It reminds me of the last conversation we had about this, where I was told that we were going to make the nature preserve better than it is. Excuse my skepticism, but I don't believe it. Tell that to the captain of the Exxon Valdez, and tell that to the engineer of the train that derailed in Palestine, Ohio. Accidents happen. Look on page 10. An article in the New Haven Register. More than 9,000 chemical spills in Connecticut in the past 6 years. More than 9,000. And if you go back one page to page number...
Yeah, I'm sorry, just one comment. This is very a specific application. It really doesn't have anything to do with the amount of spills that have happened in Connecticut. So
No, yes,
if you
actually-
could stay focused, I would really appreciate that.
Okay,
Thank you.
The point I'm trying to make is that as much as the folks from Mr. Cinto's firm can tell us that they're going to ensure that nothing bad's going to happen, bad things happen. That's the point, and I think that's incredibly relevant. One other point on page 9, it says, and this is a well-accepted figure, a single pint of oil released into a lake or wetland can cover 1 acre of water surface and seriously damage an aquatic habitat. A single pint. Mondo Pond is 36 acres. 36 pints is 4.5 gallons. 4.5 gallons is all it would take for oil to spill to coat the entire nature reserve. I think that's worth considering. Accidents happen. Why do we have to put an industrial warehouse right alongside Mondo Pond? I've heard the conversation here today about how many office spaces are vacant. Well, why does it have to be this office space that gets converted into an industrial warehouse? Why can't it be one of the other office spaces? Apparently, we've got a lot of them. Why don't we explain, why must we do this right alongside a nature preserve? I don't think we need to, and I think we need to avoid doing that. And the Development and Conservation Plan tells us that we need to value open spaces, worthy of protection. I'll finish up. It's been concluded, this is slide 12, it's been concluded that a high priority for open space conservation should be placed on those areas containing resources that are unique to Milford or significant or fragile natural resources and deemed worthy of preservation. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? It sounds great. We're going to make a lot of money for somebody. That's it. And then when they leave, we're going to have to deal with this for all the decades to come. It's not just for a day, and it's not just for a season. It's for decades. I vote that we reject this proposal.
Thank you for your comments.
Chairman Quish and esteemed members of the board, my name is Casey Cook. I live at 77 Thompson Street. I am a commissioner of Milford's Economic Development Commission. As a commissioner, it is my duty and honor to express my strong support for FCP Euro's plan to consolidate its 2 city locations by moving to Subway's former international headquarters. This move represents a significant development for both the company and the community of Milford. In Connecticut, I believe it will profoundly positive impact on the region, particularly in terms of economic growth, job creation, and contributions to the grand list. FCP Euro is a reputable e-commerce auto parts company known for its commitment to providing quality parts for European-made cars. The company's dedication to quality and customer satisfaction has earned its well-deserved place among Inc. magazine's 5,000 fastest-growing private companies multiple times. FCP Euro's impressive growth highlights the company's ambition and potential. I personally have used their services for several of my Euro-made cars. I'm not a great wrench turner, but I know enough to be dangerous, and YouTube helps. The Boys and Girls Club of Milford reached out to me and asked me to touch base with some folks that I know at FCP. So I reached out to Don, who became friendly through the Milford Yacht Club, and they ended up sponsoring the Pumpkins on the Patch event over at the West Shore Rec. And long story short, they sent 3 of their race cars over there for the kids to poke and touch, and they became a platinum or gold sponsor for the Boys and Girls Club of Milford. The decision to move to the former Subway headquarters location is a testament to FCP Euro's commitment to investing in Milford's infrastructure. This strategic choice has the potential to create a significant number of jobs in the Milford area. FCP Euro plans to consolidate hundreds of workers from 2 Milford locations to the new location and aims to hire an additional 300 to 500 workers over the next decade. This job creation is a significant boost to the local economy and will provide employment opportunities for residents. Furthermore, the consolidation and expansion of FCP Euro's operations will have positive impact on the city's grand list. The addition of a company with FCP Euro's growth potential and revenue projections will contribute substantially to the tax base, helping fund essential services and infrastructure improvements that benefit the entire community. This added revenue will support the growth and well-being of Milford for years to come. FCP Euro's decision to remain in Milford and consolidate its operations at the former Subway headquarters represents an economic development win for the area. The company's growth, investment in infrastructure, and commitment to the local community are commendable, and I believe this move will bring significant economic benefits to both FCP Euro and the city of Milford. I wholeheartedly support this project and look forward to the substantial positive impact it will have on our community, both in terms of job creation and contributions to the grand list. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Quish and esteemed members of the board. My name is Julie Nash. I'm the Economic Development Director for the City of Milford. FCP Euro is embarking on a significant endeavor by consolidating its 2 city locations and relocating to the former world headquarters of Subway, marking a momentous occasion for this city. This relocation not only streamlines operations, but also offers numerous advantages, including job creation and substantial contributions to the city's economic growth. FCP Euro has displayed impressive growth, poised to reach an anticipated revenues nearing $1 billion by 2028. The commitment to making Milford its central hub underscores the company's deep-rooted connection to the community. Even after exploring alternate locations, this choice highlights FCP Euro's unwavering dedication to becoming a homegrown success story in Milford. In the process of selecting the Subway HQ location, FCP Euro conducted a comprehensive property search with a strong emphasis on minimizing disruption for its staff. The proximity of Milford offers substantial logistical advantages on multiple fronts. As part of this transition, the company plans to consolidate 230 employees at the new location and has ambitious goals to hire hundreds of workers over the next decade. This project is the result of meticulous planning and collaborative efforts. By the time these projects reach all of you, there has been extensive preparatory work, and we have met with numerous companies and folks interested in these properties. FCP Euro is the outcome of careful preparation and strategic decision-making, demonstrating how these elements are pivotal in achieving Milford's success. The city's 2023-2033 Plan of Conservation and Development serves as a guide for decision makers when considering regulations and policy changes that will impact the city's future growth. The POCD acknowledges the potential of replacing underutilized office spaces with multifamily housing as a viable alternative in the absence of a preferable replacement. This project presents a unique and coveted opportunity to transition one headquarters to another. Despite challenges related to infrastructure for residential growth in this zone, it is crucial to view these areas as mixed-use zones that can cater to regional commercial needs. In addition, the Milford Inland Wetlands Agency has rigorously reviewed and approved this project, ensuring compliance with relevant regulations. In the realm of business and industry, our city's economic vitality is strongly supported by the business and industrial areas, making substantial contributions to the city's tax base. These areas are not only home to well-established industries, but also offer a conducive environment for new and innovative businesses to thrive. It's imperative that we continue to nurture and support these activities in these areas. Moving forward, it's equally important that the standards in these zones adapt to changing market demands. to preserve these vital economic centers in Milford so we can continue to thrive. This project is a significant victory for Milford, promising reduced traffic congestion, a surge in job opportunities, and a grand list boost. And let me quickly delve into the company culture fostered by FCP Euro, which aligns with the cultural values.
I'm sorry, we have so many people here. We really need to keep it at 3 minutes. You could finish at the end of the evening if you would, please.
Sure.
Thank you. Just close it up quick, and then we do have a lot of people here that are...
I will just quickly mention that FCP Euro has a commitment to corporate social responsibility that will certainly benefit the wider community of Milford. And with all that being said, it's definitely not an overstatement for me to assert that the decision to retain FCP Euro in Milford is a celebrated, significant economic win for Milford and Connecticut. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Eastman, and I live at 1421 Naugatuck Avenue. I don't have a prepared statement because I'm going to be talking from my heart. You said that this is not an emotional issue, but it is for the people who live in that area. My major concern right now is the amount of truck traffic that this will involve. I believe a gentleman said that they would be operating 24/7, and already Naugatuck Avenue has a heavy truckload. When I first moved to Milford 26 years ago, there was a no-through truck sign on Naugatuck Avenue. That sign has disappeared. Now we have trucks coming down Naugatuck Avenue, trucks from Garrity, Summit, Grillo. None of them observe the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. And I venture to say that any trucks getting off the exits by Bick Avenue, or Bick Drive, Schoolhouse Road, they're not going to want to be sitting and idling their trucks waiting for all those red lights that are there. That's going to impact air pollution, noise pollution, and it's not good for the well-being of the community. Right now, every day when I walk my dog, there are trucks barreling down Naugatuck Avenue, and I fear for my life that one day one of these trucks is going to jump the curb and kill me or someone else. Right now, Naugatuck Avenue is not a safe place to walk, and I strongly urge you to oppose this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Planning and Zoning Board. I am Gary Pellicetti, 1425 Windward Road, and I'm here tonight to speak in opposition of the proposed development for 305 and 325 Subway. I'm a retired public school teacher, and like all other public school teachers, our primary concern is the safety of our students. To build a 20 tractor-trailer bay warehouse in such close proximity to a school is incomprehensible and unconscionable. Those of us who live in the neighborhood have seen the speed of trucks that barrel down Oronoque Road through Subway to I-95. I have witnessed many of them go through a yellow light, and I would hate to think what would happen to a crossing guard with a handheld stop sign and their student charges crossing the street if truck traffic is increased by building such a facility. It is also my understanding there would need to be a change in zoning to make the area industrial. To my knowledge, no other Milford public school operates in an industrial zone. I would hope our Planning and Zoning Board feels that the students of JFK deserve the safest environment possible. I would also like to know if an air quality study has been done to see how the exhaust generated at such a facility would impact the air quality at JFK, not to mention the nearby ice rink and the residents around JFK and Mondo Pond. Students out on the playground or playing sports on the school's fields will be breathing in whatever particulates those trucks are pumping out. Teachers whose classrooms face the proposed area may have to keep their windows closed to seal out the smells and noise generated by the truck traffic. I hope that this and the future Planning and Zoning Board would opt to create safe environmentally conscious neighborhoods, rather than opting for a poorly thought-out facility that will only create problems in the future. Who knows? We could have an empty warehouse in 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Peter Cozzolino. I'm a commissioner on the Economic Development Commission. I'm also a Milford resident. I'm raising 3 kids here. Strong supporter of the environment and positive community development. I'm also CEO of Napa Auto Parts, which operates a group of 7 stores in New Haven County. We're headquarters right here in Milford. And I've had the privilege of witnessing the critical role that the auto parts industry plays in servicing not only Milford, but residents and communities really all over the world with a company like FCP Euro. So going through the pandemic, it really underscored the essential nature of the auto parts industry. It ensured workers remain safe and can operate. Even essential workers, first responders, everyday commuters, we need auto parts so that the world can move. It's an essential part of our community to be able to bring goods and services. And FCP Euro is a part of that industry. I really have prepared a pretty long, I've thought about this a lot. I can't think of a better company that's super engaged, responsible to the community. They're responsible, they have a commitment to the environment. This is really a common sense home run for the city of Milford. I studied economics and architecture at Colgate University. I sit on the Economic Development Commission. I volunteer there. I've gone through and sat through extensively, looked at these plans, presentations by Mr. Cinto, and they are trying everything they can to improve this existing subway location and to make it a better place adjacent to Mondo Ponds. I support this consolidation wholeheartedly. In conclusion, allowing FCP Euro to consolidate its operations in the city of Milford is not only a strategic business move, but it also demonstrates Milford's dedication to fostering growth, innovation, economic prosperity in the automotive industry, which is an essential industry. And what better company to have is somebody that's as responsible and essential to help the city of Milford. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Jim Quish and the board. My name is Paige Millio, and I live at 9 Highwood Road. I also sit on the Economic Development Commission. I'm also the executive director of the Milford Arts Council. I also love to hike. I love the beauty that our city offers everybody, including business owners and companies such as FCP Euro. I actually had a unique experience with FCP many years ago when I was still secretary officer at the yacht club. They came by to check the facility out and to join and to host events for their business colleagues and clients. And what I was really struck by, and I think I heard here tonight, was also their absolute love for our community. The fact that they wanted to be part of the community, they wanted their employees and their workforce to want to stay here, raise their families here, and enjoy the amenities that this city has. I think, too, speaking about a lot of the things that have been presented, they already exist. the truck traffic already is here, and what this consolidation would do would actually cut that truck traffic in half, if not more, since they're not crossing town between two facilities. It also employs a workforce that is a fraction of the height of Subway, which at its height was 1,200 vehicles commuting in and out of that same parking lot for years. I also know that the facility at, I think it's Spring Street in downtown, my physical therapist that I've gone to for years on and off is in the same facility, and I've witnessed the cleanliness of the parking lot, the lack of overrunning noise. They also are across from a very densely populated community up on the hills. And I just really find that, again, it's their enthusiasm and the fact that they want to be a part here of this community. And as a small city with a big heart, we need businesses like these who want to be a part of the community and support all that we have to offer, but also support the many needs that organizations and nonprofits have. With Subway, we've lost a big giver to our community and to our area nonprofits. And I think that bringing in and welcoming and partnering with a young, energetic company like this only makes us more valuable and appealing to other such businesses, which we desperately need to keep our community thriving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is I'm Kishore Kotwali. I live at 16 Zirko Farm Road, which is walking distance from Subway corporate office. I've been living there for more than a decade and a half. My kids actually went to JFK, and for the last 15 years, I really enjoyed the quiet, peaceful nature around the school. I mean, imagine elementary school having trucks, and specifically the trucking industry around the elementary school, from kindergarten to all the way till 5th grade. The kids are out there, and then the trucks and the kids. Imagine sending your kids right in the path of the trucks. So now, many fellow residents talked about the impact of Mondo Pond. They're given all the details and specifics, and those are pretty clear. I mean, there's no question that having a truck next to a forest is a clear no-no. It has a clear impact on the nature. So I understand the economic benefits of doing things, but we can get to the economic benefits without the trucking part. So there has to be a balance between what we're trying to achieve and where we're going to put the future of our kids, especially the JFK school. And then being in the neighborhood, I strongly oppose this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kathleen Ponton. I live at 1313 Naugatuck Avenue between Beaverbrook and West Rutland Road. My family has lived on this property since 1965, and we've seen a lot of changes over the years, and we've rolled with those changes. Mondo Ponds was a bonus, a beautiful nature center. Subway was a good neighbor for many years. My only objection to Subway was when they decided to have their parking lot plowed at 3 a.m. It woke me up. Not so much the plowing, but the beeping of the truck when it backed up. I can only imagine what tractor trailers will do to the sound environment in our neighborhood. I am also opposed to the fumes that these trucks will emit. Have you ever pulled up at a red light next to a tractor trailer? They smell, and I'm sure it's not good for us. They're noisy. I'm sure it's not good for us. I don't think this project is good for our neighborhoods. The property in question is surrounded by residential neighborhoods, and I ask you to consider that when you make your decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maria Vespasiano. I live at 287 West Ave in Milford. A stone's throw away from JFK, where my son goes to school, and a little harder stone's throw away to Subway. In the summer times, I can smell the beach from my backyard. 20 tractor trailers. 20. I'm not smelling the beach anymore. I know we're not supposed to get emotional, but when it comes to our kids, there's no other way to be. Last week, I got a letter from JFK that my son's first field trip is going to be at Mondo Pond. Is my second child's first field trip going to be at Mondo Pond if this goes through? Miss Nancy Austin, you asked how many people they would have at their office on a given day. They said about 100. But they do plan on hiring people, influencers, and people to do content and marketing. Did you ask them if they would be remote workers or they'd be going to the office? Because if they're remote workers, that doesn't benefit us.
I'm sorry, there's not really a question and answer, but
There's not a
you're welcome
question.
to
It's a statement.
continue for 3 minutes. That's great.
That's fine. You all heard my point. And I mean no disrespect to them. I respect the growth, and I don't even want them to leave Milford because it is good for us. But just not where it butts up to a residential neighborhood, where it affects our kids' schools, where my son has to very, very, very cautiously cross the street, as someone pointed out that the trucks do drive fast over there. There's already truck traffic. Adding 20 tractor trailer bays, I'll keep saying that because it's not 5. That's a lot. Doing that to our kids, doing that to the area is going to drastically affect how our children grow. Not to mention, it'll probably depreciate the market value of the residential neighborhoods.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Excuse me, my name is Thomas DiMatteo. I live at 5 Audubon Close in Milford. My condo abuts the path that goes around Mondo Pond. I sit on my deck or in my living room, and I'm able to see the subway headquarters, so we're pretty close. And as are many of the people that have been here tonight, are directly affected by what the plans are. First thing I would like to do is submit a petition that is different than the one that Mr. Kohler submitted. This one is bear with me, please. Under Section 10.5 of our regulations and Section 8-3B of the general statutes, 8-3 of the general statutes, if a protest is filed, this is concerning amendments or to a zoning regulation or to any type of zone change. If a protest is filed, signed by the owners of 20% or more of the lots within 500 feet in all directions of the property included in the proposed change, such change shall not be adopted except by a vote of 2/3 of the members of the commission. This is a 10-member commission, so that would require 7 votes to approve this if it is found that this petition is valid. I'll submit it to the clerk. It consists of, actually the site, this came off the site plan. It's a map that shows 500 feet around the property. What we did was match the lots on that, on this diagram with Google Maps and with the assessor's maps to try to ascertain just who the people who are affected by this are. We went to their houses and obtained signatures. So I'm submitting the map, a list of the people who were whose lots appear on this map, as well as petitions signed by many more than the required by the statute.
Thank you.
A couple of things. First of all, I'm very impressed with FCP Euro. I think that Milford should be proud of a business such as FCP Euro, just as we were proud of Subway and such as we were proud of BIC and all the other companies that we've had, Schick, all the companies we've had in Milford. And I think that is good for there's no question that we want to have an a sound economic base to support the things that we have to do in Milford. But all of this that we talked about today, all the wonderful things that FCP Euro does, doesn't affect the families, doesn't affect the people who live nearby, doesn't affect the people, the children at JFK, doesn't affect the people who enjoy the beauty, the serenity, the sanctuary of Mondo Ponds. It affects their bottom line. It certainly affects Mr. Cinto's bottom line. It certainly affects, apparently, the people who care about our economic base and Milford being known as a headquarters city. But the people who live here, the people who come to Milford to live, who choose to pay the taxes, who choose to indulge in the services and the quality of life that we have, we're all going to be negatively affected by this. There's not one positive impact for a person who lives anywhere in that area. Not one. We hear a lot about consolidation. They're going to consolidate their two buildings. That's great. That's wonderful for FCP Euro. I'm glad they're going to be much more efficient. I'm glad they're going to make more money. I'm really glad their employees are going to be happy. That's really, really important to the people of Milford, that the employees of FCP Euro are happy. But of course, when we hear their trucks backing up with that loud beeping, one of the most obnoxious sounds that we hear, the employers are getting paid. We're not. When we have to smell diesel fumes while we walk along the pond or walk our kids to school, the employees of FCP Euro, they don't care. They're getting paid. We have to live there. The idea that our tax base and our economic development dictates the quality of life in a city is absurd. A city is made up of its people. It's not made up of its companies. We have company towns. Historically in the United States, we've had company towns that a company owns and destroys. We have companies that come in, pollute the environment, and leave. We have companies that pay a lot of money in taxes and do nothing for the quality of life. That's what we're here for. That's what you're here for. You're here to protect the quality of life of the city of Milford. Now, the applicant has referenced the zoning laws, and I don't disagree with the applicable laws. There is no right to a zone change. We know that. There is no right to an amendment to the zoning regulations, unlike the site plan, which is administrative, unlike a subdivision, which is administrative. This is completely legislative, totally within your discretion. You don't have to give it to them. As nice as FCP Euro is, they have no right to this. As good a developer as R.D. Cinto is, they have no right to this. So what standards guide your decision? Our statutes talk about it. It has to be in accordance with the comprehensive plan and the consideration of the plan of conservation and development. The comprehensive plan, as the council said, it's the map, it's the regulations, it's also the existing uses in the area. The existing uses in that area are not warehouses. We have school, we have an open space, a nature preserve, and we have offices. And surrounding all of it are houses, condos, apartments, residential uses. That's the comprehensive plan for this part of Milford, not bringing in a warehouse, an industrial warehouse. We have, in our comprehensive plan, we have places for warehouses. In fact, I believe there's at least 160,000 square feet of open warehouse space on Bick Drive, according to recent listings. We have that, and we have a place for it. That's what the comprehensive plan says. It doesn't say, it says north of Naugatuck Avenue, we're going to have industry, south of Naugatuck Avenue, offices and residential. That's one part of the comprehensive plan. This property has been zoned for offices for at least 40 years. The adjacent and surrounding lots are zoned for offices. Other uses near the parcel are single and multi-family residential and elementary school and a nature sanctuary. There are no industrial uses between West Avenue and Naugatuck Avenue. Industrial uses and districts are in industrial districts. Excuse me, industrial uses are in industrial districts. That's what we have. That's what our plan of, that's what our comprehensive plan says, is that industrial uses, which a warehouse is part of, warehouses only exist in industrial districts. Only in industrial districts, not office districts. And the idea of saying, well, we're going to change the definition of an office district to include industrial uses goes against the comprehensive plan.
I thank you for your comments. We were really trying to keep everybody at 3 minutes. You're at about 7 now.
Mr. Kuch, we had the whole team of the Environmental Development Commission.
That's
we had
great.
people go on much longer than I've gone on so far.
So I would say you're welcome to come back up in rebuttal. I appreciate your time. You're about 7 minutes in. 3 minutes is a little, and they're in line waiting to talk, sir.
Mr. Quish, I will talk again. It's just more efficient if I finish in one time.
Thank you. For the next person to come up to the microphone.
My name is Richard Daigle. I live at 61 Cheryl Ann Drive in Milford. I've lived in Milford in several different homes for upward of 57 years. Even on the north end of Milford, I can hear truck traffic on I-95. I cannot imagine what those kids at Kennedy School are going to have to go through listening to truck traffic half a block away. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Not to mention the environmental impact. I did hear someone say a phrase, something to the effect of without any contaminants. And I don't know whether or not that took into consideration the new truck traffic, or is that just based on existing conditions compared to the improvements, the mitigation that they're going to do. And as I've also heard, no mitigation is foolproof. So there's always the risk. We've got a beautiful place at Mondo Pond. We talk about new impact on schools. Clearly there is going to be one. One of the things that really bothers me about what I've been hearing, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be, but if I'm not mistaken, I heard that there were 31 Milford employees. And they don't want to disrupt 31 Milford employees. And yet they're willing to disrupt JFK School. They're willing to disrupt all those homes around there who will have diminished property values because it's turned into an industrial area. I just think you have a moral obligation not to approve this.
Hi, I'm Diane Pryor, and I live at 5 Audubon Close, and I am adamantly against this project. I find the whole proposal to be against the best interests of the residents of Milford. I mean, I've bounced around a little bit because a lot of what I was going to say has already been said, and I want to make the best use of my time and yours. And I appreciate you being here and listening to us. It's really cold in here, so maybe that's why we're rushing right through here. But I did want to repeat one thing that was said, and part of my research on this was that while we do understand the need for a company to move into space. We've talked here, we keep hearing about how we have empty office space, lots of empty office space. Why are we building new office space? We have a need for 160,000 square foot of warehouse space, but there's 166,000 square feet of warehouse space available, empty, for lease, up on Bick Drive, right near where FCP Euro already has a warehouse. That said, I have nothing against this company. They're a good company. I'm happy that they're here. I'm happy that they want to stay here, but not at the expense of the nature preserve and the people that live in the area. We talked about the value of the taxes, and what I'm appealing to the board here is to not just use the valuation of the property to increase a tax base, because that can happen no matter where this company or any company moves in Milford to one of these empty spaces. This was explained to me by somebody the other day, so I'm very appreciative of this. The value of the property being improved, I understand, increases the tax base. The value of any property being improved, which could also include the spaces that are already available, would increase the tax base. The valuation for the citizens of Milford to use a nature preserve and to have it available to them as a peaceful, serene place to go wind down after work, run before work, not me, but people exercise there, to go fishing, to bring their children, to enjoy this peaceful, beautiful place. That's the value that I would appeal to you to consider. We have grandchildren that go back there, and this is not on my original speech here, but we have grandchildren that go back there, and they've been going back there for years. And I will tell you that none of you have probably ever seen fairies that live there, little fairy houses, gnomes, rocks that turn into trains and airplanes and everything else that little children can conceive of. They're not sitting at home with little buttons to push and looking at screens. They're out there, they're playing, they're using their imagination. One day we were walking back there and we found rose petals leading out to a rock, Valentine's Day. It was amazing. People use this space for their nourishment, their mental health, for their children, fishing, walking, running. There's a couple that comes there every single day to walk. I can't imagine walking by there, walking by the warehouse that's going to be there. We look at the brick space that Subway already has. The warehouse will be so much higher and so much bigger. The trucks will be, somebody asked about this, I have the answer, running from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. every single day. Every day. That's a lot of noise. That's a lot of traffic. Other people have talked about the truck traffic, so I'm going to leave that alone. But it's a lot of truck noise, and it's a lot of beep, beep, beep. And imagine opening up your windows in the summertime. Anywhere in that area, we can already hear 95. Anywhere in that area, people are going to hear beep, beep, beep of trucks backing up into their parking spaces. We don't need that. Sorry, I'm bouncing here a little bit. And I think this has been touched on just a little bit, and I'll say it again. When my husband and I chose to live in that neighborhood, this is our retirement home. When we walked through Mondo Ponds Nature Preserve, remember, it's not just a pond, it's a nature preserve, 36 acres. We looked at each other and said, oh my God, this could be our backyard. This is so beautiful. We are not the only ones that made that decision. And we make decisions based on what we know are zoning regulations. We know that nothing else is supposed to go there. Warehouses aren't supposed to go there. We are depending on the Planning and Zoning Board to fulfill their contract to the citizens of Milford and keep us safe from industrial use where we don't want it. where we don't want to live. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Janet Esposito Daigle, and I reside at 61 Cheryl Ann Drive here in Milford. There were so many marvelous speakers here at the podium this evening speaking in opposition to the proposed plan by Subway. I stand in support of their opposition to this plan. The one word that we heard earlier during the public hearing portion was stewardship, the one word that resonated with me totally. Yes, we are the stewards of our natural environment. And the plan that is proposed is really an abomination in terms of the quality of our life here in Milford and how Mondo Ponds could be very negatively impacted by this proposal. I don't know how many of the people here this evening have read the author Barbara Kingsolver's works. She is very much a supporter of nature, of the natural world. And her emphasis is always what is going to benefit people the most in their environments. And that is maintaining the beautiful balance between nature and those who are occupying the area. I do laud those people here this evening who spoke in favor of the plan, those who are part of an economic committee, economic council, etc. I understand and appreciate the effort that it takes to keep in mind the financial issues that that the city faces. However, hard decisions have to be made, and this is one decision that I believe you, as the decision makers on this matter, I believe you need to make the right one, which is to support, completely support, the neighborhoods that are impacted, would be impacted by the proposal, and to keep Milford as pristine as we possibly can. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, other members of the committee. I know the hour is late. I may appear to be your last speaker, so I'll try to go as fast as I can. I'm Tim Phelan, live on 95 Kings Highway in Milford. I'm also a member of the Economic Development Commission. I wanted to read, if I could, into the record a statement by Ani Kelly, who is the chair of the Economic Development Commission. I'm writing to express my strong support for FCP Euro's plans to consolidate its two city locations by moving to Subway's former international headquarters. This move represents a significant development for both the company and the community of Milford, and I believe it will have a profoundly positive impact on the region, particularly in terms of economic growth, job creation, and contributions to the grand list. The decision to move to the former Subway headquarters location is a testament to FCP Euro's commitment to investing in its infrastructure in Milford. This strategic choice has the potential to create a significant number of jobs in the Milford area FCP Europe plans to consolidate approximately 245 workers at the new location and aims to hire an additional 300 to 500 workers over the next decade. This job creation is a significant boost to the local economy and will provide employment opportunities for residents. It's important to note that FCP Europe's project aligns closely with the mission of the Economic Development Commission. The Commission's mission is to assist the city's Director of Economic and Community Development with communication and collaboration with businesses, community organizations, and city departments to improve workforce development, quality of life, and the committee's overall well-being. FCP Euro's commitment to investing in the local community, creating jobs, and contributing to the economic growth of Milford perfectly aligns with this mission. Moreover, this project is consistent with the plan of conservation and development, establishes a vision for Milford's physical form, economic and social health, and quality of life. FCP Euro's decision to consolidate in Milford and invest in its infrastructure supports the vision of a thriving and economically prosperous community outlined in the POCD. It's a testament to the city's commitment to attracting and retaining businesses that contribute to its substantial growth. In conclusion, FCP Euro's decision to remain in Milford and consolidate its operations at the former Subway headquarters is a win-win for both the company and the community. It aligns with the city's guiding documents, the Economic Development Commission's mission, and the POCD's vision for sustainable growth. I wholeheartedly support this project and look forward to the substantial positive impact it will have on our community, both in terms of job creation, contributions to the grand list, and realization of the city's economic and social potential. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'll be brief. I know it's late. Deborah Estock, 38 Hemlock Drive. One concern that I have is has there been a study done about the environmental impact of the air quality in the neighborhood? Also, I heard from the architect that was in charge of landscaping that the trees that they proposed to put in are shorter than what is proposed in the regulations. I know trees grow, but that is one living organism that helps in the pollution. So that is a concern that I have. I have a big concern about the kids walking to school, being out on a playground, breathing in diesel fuel. There's already been, as everyone else has said before me, a number of additions to the area, one being the Durham Bus Depot is now in the back, and the buses at the beginning and the end of the day are just a constant route back and forth. More diesel fuel. The dump trucks, diesel fuel. The hours of operation are also a concern. There are sidewalks where the current subway is, but there are no other sidewalks. People walk that area. They walk on the street. They walk on Subway. They're pushing strollers. They're walking their dogs. Additional tractor-trailer trucks are only going to lead to some very serious accidents. And I pray to God that it's not any one of your family or none of mine. Please take that into your consideration. And one other comment that I have is if you see that this zone change to limited industrial is approved, what assurance can you give me and the other residents that this will not open the door for other businesses to come in and put up other warehouses or other light industrial facilities in that area? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chris Oser. I live at 29 Audubon Close, and I've listened in rapt attention to the swapping of pros and cons over this warehouse being built. One thing that's interesting to me is that the people who got up and spoke in support of it are doing so because it's their job, it's their role. Those of us who are opposed are the citizens of Milford who live here because this is a town that seemed to value the jewels that we have here in our beaches, the sweetness of the residents, and places like Mondo Pond Bird Sanctuary that is there to protect the natural beauty of Connecticut. Of course we need to develop our economy. I appreciate that. But as I look at your faces and I see exhausted people, maybe a tiny bit bored, gotta check the email, I still wonder if you appreciate what the citizens of Milford would prefer. I live near Mondo Pond, and I watch all kinds of people out there. During COVID, I watched people catching fish, I think, for their dinner. It is a place for everyone. It is free, it is beautiful, and it does something that money can't buy. It feeds the soul.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Paul Monfrey, 26 Manor House Lane. Thank you all for working late. I hope you guys are making overtime. I just want to say that I strongly oppose this. There's things you can't put a price on. And tax dollars, that's all well and good. And I think it's great that they want to stay in Milford. I hope they do find a place in Milford, but I just don't want it to be here. Because there's things, like I said, you can't put a price on. And if I had to pay $1,000 more in taxes, this is off the record, please. I would prefer to have peace and quiet and still be able to enjoy the Mondo Ponds. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Laura Palmieri. I live at 1313 Naugatuck Avenue. I utilize Mondo Ponds daily. I go out there. I'm one of the earliest people out there, usually one of the first people out there every morning walking. Finding out that the trucks will be running starting at 6 a.m. really kind of puts a damper on that because it is so peaceful first thing in the morning. It's peaceful throughout the entire day. But knowing that these trucks will be running, we're going to hear that all the time at our homes. We can't, sitting out in the backyard, we like everyone else has said, we already hear 95, but now it's going to be that constant drum of the trucks. And then again, you can smell, like you hear an accident on 95, you immediately have the odors and everything from the accident, you hear everything. I don't know, I just suppose it. Walking around, if you go counterclockwise, you see Subway. So what are we going to see now? We're going to see a big warehouse, up to 20 trucks sitting there. They won't all be there at the same time, but that's what we're going to see. That's going to take away from the beauty of the ponds. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paul Miller, 14 Seaview Avenue, and I'm here in support of this project. I have dealt with the RD Cinto company many times. They have built many of my buildings, and I have been 100% satisfied. If the application is approved, I can guarantee you that the Cinto company will meet or exceed everything that you want. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Joseph Bogdan, 3 Audubon Close, Milford. My property backs up to the Mondo Ponds Trail. In the 1970s, my father sat on this board, and he was on the board during the first town plan of development in the 1970s. And one of the things that was done in the 70s was the Housatonic Industrial Zone was created. There were 2 very politically powerful groups involved in town at that time, the Naugatuck Gardens Association and the Northwest Association. They had a lot of influence in that development, and there was a lot of concern about traffic buffer zones, etc. The city bought the property or acquired the property for Bick Drive in the late 60s, and Bick Drive was constructed. That was intentionally zoned as an office area, as a buffer zone to protect the residents of Hemlock Drive neighborhoods, Naugatuck, and also the Benjamin Heights area, which was under construction at that time. It was an intentional decision to make that a buffer zone. An industrial warehouse changes that. I'm not in favor of the regulation, and I'm not in favor of the proposed development. You know, everyone talks about economic development. I go back to the one thing I remember hearing it my whole life in this town when I was younger, and people might remember it. Every politician back then, both Democrat and Republican, said Highlight will forever solve our tax problems. And you can find that in print. Highlight will forever solve our tax problems. So I'm not convinced everything is forever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello and thank you. I'm going to be very brief. My name is Regine Randall. I live at 4 Audubon Close. It's such a beautiful area. I am very concerned about unintended consequences of having a warehouse on the other side of the preserve. So I do oppose this project. Thank you.
Thank you. So when the public comment is over, the applicant will be able to respond. And after that, anyone who has spoken that wants to complete their thoughts up will be welcome at that time. Okay, I stand corrected. The city planner would like to have anyone that would like to finish their thoughts come up now, and then the applicant will be able to rebut your full things. Please, though, try to keep your next speaking engagement with us at about 3 minutes.
Alan Kohler again from 29 Audubon Close. I handed you those handouts before. If you could please turn to page 11. There's just a point I want to make which hasn't been made yet. One of the things that I understand FCP Euro does is it collects back, as a collection site, it collects back used engine oil from its customers and provides that service. And on their website, they show plastic bottles and plastic bags filled with oil. Let me just mention to you, there are very few things in this world that are as toxic as used engine oil. They're filled with heavy metals, and they have polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are considered carcinogenic. So this is a material that if you get it on your skin or if you breathe the fumes from it, you could be increasing your chance of getting cancer. This is a material that is, again, I'll say it again, the company collects this back from their customers to be shipped off for recycling. One way or another, some of that used engine oil is going to find its way down into the pond. It's a downhill slope from where the building is going to be to the pond itself. One way or another, there's going to be an accident, there's going to be a failure of a system, there's going to be a spill in the parking lot, and that carcinogenic used engine oil is going to find its way down into the pond. It's not appropriate, it's dangerous, it's carcinogenic, and we need to say no to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thomas DiMatteo, 5 Audubon Close, Milford. First of all, I want to apologize to the chairman and the board for any disrespect. It wasn't intentional. As you can see, it's an emotional time for those of us who have invested our lives in living where we live and want to be able to live in quiet enjoyment. I will be brief. I have a couple of points I want to make that go to the zoning law as I read it. We were talking before about consistency with the comprehensive plan, I talked about that. In terms of consistency with the conservation plan of conservation and development, Mr. Kohler addressed that to some degree. I wanted to just address one point that was made by the applicant about the future use of that area and how that mixed industrial business residential is mentioned. It may be that is the plan down the road. I don't know if warehouses are part of that, but on page 72 of the draft POCD, which I thought was approved, but if it's not, I'll just say that it says that with regard to these future uses, it is important that the standards in these areas evolve in response to changing market demands, and that adequate protections are in place to maintain the character of these areas. And that's the balance here. The balance here is a proposed warehouse versus the character of the area that's already there. And while there may be certain indications in our POCD about mixed use and various types of different uses, it still has to be balanced with what's already there and the people who are already there. So I just wanted to submit that. Moving forward, also under our statutes, regulations must be designed to lessen congestion, secure safety, promote health and general welfare, provide adequate light and air, protect environmental resources, facilitate adequate provision for schools, parks, and other public requirements. A warehouse with tractor-trailer trucks arriving and leaving between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. fails to lessen congestion in the streets, and a building of 160,000 square feet with walls up to 40 feet high fails to lessen building congestion. So I think that's one very important point. 2, truck traffic also increases risk to safety. So when we talk about promoting health and safety, we're talking about increased truck traffic posing a threat to that. 3, noise and exhaust do not promote health and safety. They, in fact, impair health and safety. We know that. 4, the massive dimensions of the building and the ongoing tractor-trailer traffic adversely affect the provision of light and air. By definition, they're going to. The proximity of an industrial use next to Mondo Ponds Nature Preserve is an ongoing threat to the environmental resource, as well as the use and enjoyment of the resource by the public. Quiet use and enjoyment is a hallmark of our conservation plan. With regard to the educational piece, Mr. Pellichet discussed it in full. I'll just remind the board that in some of the information that was submitted are studies that have shown that noise adversely affects children's ability to learn. It affects their ability to concentrate and to retain information. So having something less than parts of the school are within the 500 feet of circle that we talked about before. Regulations must be drafted with reasonable consideration as to the physical characteristics of the district and suitability for particular uses, and with a view to encouraging the most appropriate use of land throughout the municipality. The zoning map has established our districts. We have, as we said before, certain areas that are designated as industrial areas. Certain areas are residential, certain are business. That reflects the suitability of land. Nothing said today says that this land is somehow less suitable for a business use. Yeah, it's less profitable, but it's not less suitable. Whereas it's a warehouse is clearly less suitable for what's around it, what's there now, both on the ponds and the residential areas around it. The idea that, and once again, with all due respect to FCP Euro and RD Cinto, our city does not function for their benefit, right? We know that. It's the benefit of the people who live there, we the people. But the idea that we have to amend our zoning regulation to increase the intensity of the use of that property, to bring in an industrial use of that property, solely because there are changes in economic conditions that impact the bottom line of companies, is totally inconsistent with what zoning exists for. So I would ask this board to strongly consider not to strongly consider, to reject this proposal and to suggest to the Economic Development Commission to find them another place to do their business. Thank you.
Thank you.
One last time, thank you for hearing me. I wanted to thank the gentleman who talked about High Lie, because he reminded us how High Lie was going to save Milford. It just might save Milford. It could. It's over 12 acres of undeveloped land, much closer to 95 than the piece that they're interested in, which is in a residential section. The old High Lie building is falling down, almost down, paved in an industrial area right next to 95. No one's against doing this job. No one's against FCP. We're against doing it where it's being proposed. We're asking for stewardship of a precious resource, both natural and our children, because we don't want it by a school. But it would work really nice, and High Lie could save us again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That looks like this.
Hi there and good evening, and yes indeed, I am going to keep this very short. I am Alice Avery. I live at 17 Audubon Close. There was so much that was shared today, pros and cons. I am against the project. You know, it's so easy to be supportive of something if it's not going up in your own backyard or if it's not going up in your environment. I live very close to Mondo Pond, and indeed, I love it there. Why do I love it? Is because of the nature trail, the pond, and the beauty. You know, once you put something in motion, you can never take it back. And if there was an environmental spill, how do you rectify that? Yes, we all want to be very cautious, but as it's been explained tonight, accidents do happen. And you know that word stewardship, it means so much. We are stewards of our environment, of our world, and so much of it has been misused. Please reconsider. I ask you, do not let this project go through. Again, many people that spoke today was perhaps politicians. They were motivated to, for one reason or the other, to get up and be pro for it. But again, I doubt it very much if this was going to go in their yard or in their backyard or near their environment. Please reconsider and do not let this pass. Thank you. Remember the word stewardship.
Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Kevin Crusaden for the applicant and the property owner. I'm going to touch a base. I'm not sure if I'll hit them all in order. I will go quickly. First, with respect to the petition, I didn't get a chance to see the petition that was submitted that in reference to Connecticut General Statute Section 8-3, where it's a proposed change is filed before a hearing with a protest petition filed during a hearing or before a hearing with the Zoning Commission. However, that has to be from 20% or more of the area of the lots included in such proposed change, or of the lots within 500 feet in all directions of the property included in the proposed change. And such change shall not be adopted then except by a vote of 2/3. In this particular case, that means that applies to the office district zone. We're not changing the zone of this particular property. If that were the case, then it would be within 500 feet of this particular property. But we're not. We're actually we're asking to change the OD zone. So the petition would have to be from 20% of the people within 500 feet, or property owners within 500 feet of the all of the OD zones in Milford, which is in this particular area. But I'm sure I actually had printed out the assessor's list today. It was several hundred properties. So I haven't seen the petition. I don't know how many people have signed on it. But and I'll just give a little bit of background too. This property was originally it was created. My understanding, it was created by excavation in order to fill for I-95 at one point in time. And so over the years, it's evolved and it's adapted, and the environment's adapted, and it's become a beautiful location that everyone in Milford enjoys, including myself. The original stewards of the property, at one point in time, maybe that might not have been the original stewards, was the New Haven Water Company, and then it was the Regional Water Authority, which I've been on the board of the Regional Water Authority for about, I don't know, it's 15 or 20 years now. And I actually sat here in your chair, Mr. Chairman, when we deeded it over and sold it to the city of Milford as part of the scheme of the general statutes, with the understanding that Milford would protect Mondo Ponds. And I think that's included in the deed. So just to be, with respect to all of the residents tonight, I've walked Mondo Ponds. I have friends that adjoin, have properties for many years on Mondo Ponds. I think my daughter, her first fishing session was with her grandpa on, Mondo Ponds. So I understand the concern about it, but I think that what's being missed in that conversation is we are not proposing any changes to Mondo Ponds. This project has gone through the inland wetlands process. The actual reduction in the amount of potential cars and vehicles and fuel leaks and other things from a current site that is, I don't know what the exact percentage of impervious paved surface, with treatment facilities, drainage facilities that are, from the early 1990s to be, if it were approved, to be updated to current regulations and current drainage standards. And my understanding is what's being proposed is a gold standard for protection and cleaning and treatment of the stormwater system. So and Mr. Collegian had said it at the beginning that, the facts matter, and it's I'm paraphrasing, he didn't say it exactly that way, but the facts are important, and I agree. And we've heard a lot of comments about stewardship and damage to Mondo Ponds, all very important things, but there's no facts that have been presented to you that there is going to be any damage to Mondo Ponds whatsoever. The tree plantings, the trees that are being removed in the northwestern corner there, which abut an inland wetlands area on Mondo Ponds, those trees, we tried to save those trees during the inland wetlands process because we were trying to figure out the best way through inland wetlands, whether we would fill a little bit of inland wetlands that are a little bit south of that location on the site. That's what we kind of wanted to do in order to preserve those trees. Then we did a tree survey with the landscape architect. I think he had one of his interns or one of his employees do a survey of those trees, and unfortunately, and I'll probably get the name wrong, but they were infected with I'm not sure if it's Dutch elm disease, but beech tree disease, but some disease that those trees were going to be coming down one way or the other. So then we shifted gears and we decided to include parking over there and remove those trees. So it's the trees that are being planted and the other plantings that are taking place are done in a way to protect that inland wetlands habitat, which was the testimony here tonight. So the testimony you've heard from the licensed professionals has been that the stormwater drainage is going to be cleaner, it's going to be cooler. I haven't heard anything about from the neighbors other than allegations or claims that there's going to be contamination or some damage to the environment. Also, This property does not abut JFK. There is the Milford Ice Pavilion next to it, then there's JFK. I don't know whether JFK is actually within 500 feet, but keep in mind that I'm not being facetious, and I live in Milford too. And like I said, I enjoy Mondo Ponds, and it will continue to be preserved, I'm sure. Regardless of the outcome of tonight's hearing, it's going to be preserved, meaning that if this were to be approved at some point in time, that it would continue to exist as it does now and offer the same benefits to the community. So there are, I don't know if it wasn't clearly articulated during our original presentation, the truck traffic that we're talking about already passes these sites and these properties now. It's just it's not going to go over onto Bick Drive and then maybe down Naugatuck. It's going to come off 95 and it's going to go right to Subway, which is a lot shorter, I'm sorry, may I speak? I don't know if I heard something in the back. So it's a lot shorter distance. It's going to reduce the overall traffic on the city streets. JFK and we've heard tonight from some of the neighbors in opposition, there's already a lot of truck traffic. This project is not increasing the truck traffic, it's already there. And if anything, it's decreasing the distance of the truck traffic. The trucks are not going to sit and idle. It's 6 to 10 trucks per day. I have this from from FCP Euro. The current hours of operation of the facility are 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The truck hours are 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., and the main shift there ends at 7 p.m. So from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., it's just an inventory shift of about 4 to 6 people. The trucks turn off their engines when they're docked, and truck traffic is only going to be on Subway, and you can make certain things conditions of approval if you saw fit to approve this project. The way it's been explained to me, and the gentleman from FCP Euro are here, these trucks, there's not going to be 20 trucks sitting idling, and you're not having 20 trucks in or out either once a day or twice a day. Trucks come in, they either unload or they upload, they sit there for a couple days, the tractor is not running during that time frame. So I think it's important to recognize that you haven't heard any facts about any type of environmental contamination or environmental damage. The bus routes are already through this neighborhood. This site is on the way down to the transfer station and the sewage treatment facility, but it's also, which projects also have residential uses next to them. The 500 Bick Drive location backs up against residential use. The 155 Hill Street location has residential use across the street, and I think behind it currently, and I'm not aware of any complaints from any neighbors. The trucks are not going to be driving by or in front of JFK School. I think that probably the noise, I'm not a noise expert, obviously a noise expert, but I think the noise from I-95 and the contamination and whatever it might be from emissions on I-95 is not going to be increased from what we're proposing to do. I'll finish it up. I think that's it, pending your questions, and I believe the applicant would just like to say a few words before we close up completely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think Mondo Pond is absolutely beautiful. I've walked it several times. I have made phone calls to the neighbors who were opposed to this in wetlands, and they were both very, very nice to me on the phone. And I told them I'd like to come and see you and the association and talk about planting any trees for shelter. Well, one neighbor told me, well, we couldn't see it no matter what. But I said I'd like to come and meet with them and tell them about the improvements that I want to make. Both people were very kind to me on the phone, and I had to call back 4 times, and I never got a phone call back from anybody. And the reason is they know that I wanted to make improvements to Mondo Pond. I made an application to the Wetland Commission. Instead of eliminating the wetlands, I said, can I make these improvements to the pond? Okay. Rebuild a bridge, get rid of standing water. There's a bunch of plants, make it all 10 feet. We wanted to plant 40 trees in the pond. And I wanted to sit down with the neighbors and tell them that I wanted to make the pond better. That's what I asked to do. I wanted to make sure I put up any trees along this property so that my property would never have any effect on anyone walking in that pond. 4 times I called each back as humbly as I could. I never got a phone call back. So I want the commission to know I really reached out to these folks, but no one's ever called me back. But I'm still willing to make those improvements to the pond if I can get this approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll allow for someone to speak. If you would please limit your comments to rebut any new information that was presented by the applicant.
Alan Kohler. I didn't get 4 phone calls from Mr. Cinto. I got 2 phone calls. So that's one correction. He left me a message. He said to me he could guarantee that not 1 drop of oil would find its way into Mondo Pond. I didn't believe him. How can anybody make such a guarantee? I don't know.
Thank you.
Karen Eastman, 1421 Naugatuck Avenue. I heard the gentleman.
Could you speak into the mic?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I heard the gentleman say that the truck traffic is not going to increase, that the trucks are going to get off at exit 35. We were here at another planning and zoning meeting a few years ago where it was promised that the trucks would not travel down Naugatuck Avenue, that they would get off exit 35 and go to the plant on Bick Drive. That hasn't happened. Those trucks start at 6 o'clock in the morning and go until the evening. Hearing that truck grinding its gears at 6 o'clock in the morning is not the way I want to wake up. There are trucks constantly. There are cement trucks, there are tractor trailers, there are buses because they can't turn right onto Plains Road, so they go down to Bick Drive and turn right and then go to their bus barn. The number of trucks will increase because these truck drivers will not sit and idle in their trucks. They'll take the shortcut, as most people would if they're in a time crunch, and they'll get off exit 36 and drive down Naugatuck Avenue. That cannot be allowed to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thomas DiMatteo, again, 5 Audubon Close. Mr. Cinto did call. He reached out, and we appreciated his phone call. We had a nice, brief conversation. The issue for us isn't the trees. It's a warehouse. It's the noise and the use. It's the way it's having to hear that and smell that, and trees aren't going to change that. So we didn't get back to Mr. Cinto. I apologize to him for that, but it wouldn't have mattered. Our opposition is to the warehouse. With regard to the 8-3 interpretation by council, I didn't brief it. I can't get into the details of it, but it's rather disingenuous to, when the initial application for the amendment change specifically wanted it next to 30 acres of property owned by the city. It was specifically directed at at this property. After speaking with Mr. Sulkus, they made that change, they took that out of there, but they submitted this with a site plan for this property. Everything about this presentation tonight is on this property, this particular user, this particular owner. To come back and say, well, you need 20% of all the other lots that are affected, of neighbors of all the other lots, OD properties that are affected, I say that's disingenuous because there was never any intention with this application to go beyond the current location of the subway headquarters. So, again, I mean, I can't brief it. I just have to let it stand on for what it is that this was never about anything except Mondo Ponds, about the subway property. And in fact, there's been nothing suggested to this commission as to how many other properties even qualify under the language of the statute, of the proposed regulation. I imagine it would apply to Total Mortgage down the street, another beautiful piece of property that probably has some vacancies. Maybe we should knock that down and put up an office, a warehouse there too. But I submit the petition, I stand by it, I believe the law supports us, and I believe that 66%, 2/3 of this board have to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joseph Bogdan, 3 Audubon Close. Just to elaborate regarding my comment about Bick Drive before and the truck traffic. Yes, the truck traffic is there on Bick Drive. Bick Drive, when it was built and cut through, as I said, for the heavy industrial zone, was supposed to be the single route in and out of the Oronoque Road Bick complex area. When I moved to Audubon in 1991, and I'm right on the corner of Naugatuck, there was no truck traffic. I had 500-600 cars a day, 3 shifts at Bick Pen, a couple times a day. Naugatuck Avenue was quiet, okay? Over the years, the companies there have either closed or changed hands. When it was Beards, when it was DJ Cartons down there, when those business owners were in business, their drivers had strict orders: Bick Drive or be fired. And I knew that. I knew some drivers there. Today, with all the new companies down there and all the changes, all southbound trucks delivering get off at Plains Road right now and come down Naugatuck Avenue. Any southbound truck going to Bick Drive, I get Eastern Steel, 20, 24, 26 wheelers by the house. I get 18 wheelers all day long. Any truck going to FCP Euro's facility there, a southbound driver, is going to get off at Plains Road. It either needs to be re-signed or conditioned so it doesn't get used on Naugatuck Avenue, and part of the problem is the drivers themselves. 70% of truck drivers do not have commercial GPSs because they cost thousands of dollars. Most truck drivers just have a regular one, so it doesn't take them off the truck route. At one time, the truck route in Milford was posted as Bick Drive. I can no longer find that on a website. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just briefly with respect to the 8-3 petition, I'm just stating what the law is, and I had a conversation with the city attorney about that, and he agreed with my interpretation of it, that it applies to all properties in the OD, the office district zone. So it's the 500 feet, 20% of properties within 500 feet of that zone. It's not disingenuous. That's what the law says. So once again, with respect to the truck traffic, it's there, and we're not increasing it based on this application. So we believe that this is in accordance with the plan of comprehensive, the comprehensive plan of development. The stewardship has more than one meaning. It's the environmental stewardship, but it's also the financial and economic health of the city is part of your task. You have a difficult task when you have friction and change with a changing economy, changing needs, changing use. We appreciate you listening to this application so diligently, and we ask that you close the public hearing and vote to approve this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Due to the hour, I don't think it's going to be 25 Shell Street. I don't think we should start that tonight. It should go to the 21st. I apologize. I did not expect this to have gone on this long. Does anyone have any reason to keep this public hearing open? Mr. Sadi?
Yes, I just, before I answer the chairman's question,
25 Shell will be heard at the next regular board meeting, which is Tuesday, the 21st of November.
I apologize. Mr. Sadi.
thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Two comments I want to make before answering your question. We are all up here with data. We're not checking emails. We're able to see the materials. Some of them actually were provided by the speakers. I should make that clear. We're here looking at the data. We don't have paper up here as much as we used to. That's number one. Number two, 4 people that did speak, I just want to put on the record. I know for many different reasons, in any event, it would not make any difference to my decision. Responding to the chair's question, I have no answers for it, but I do know that we were presented with a document tonight that changes the dynamic completely about what the voting would be. We don't know if it's appropriate or acceptable. That's number one. Secondly, and we've had an amazing presentation by the people that are in favor of this application, and then we had an amazing discussion by the citizens. I think I do need more time for making the decision. We got a lot of materials. It's appropriate. Attorney Crusade, you always give us a lot of matters. But that's my general thought. On the other hand, I will abide by whatever the board decides. Thank you.
Well, I think that okay.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Mr. Sadi. I think, we need to go through this. What was handed to us by Mr. Collar, we need to go through that. He highlighted certain pages, but it's a total of about 20 pages we need to go through.
Understood. I think that we have a couple of petitions that staff needs to review, and one of them specifically needs to be vetted to see if it meets the threshold for additional votes for passage. So I would say that we
leave the hearing open.
Okay. So I would say that I'd like to get a motion to table this to the next meeting.
Can we close the public hearing? They're all here. We let them talk forever. Please, just close the public hearing.
David?
There's a couple of things. We need to look at the petitions, which may or may not affect the vote. In the discussion that just took place, you're going to be going through information that was given to you. If you have any questions about the information, if you close the public hearing, you're not going to be able to get any answers.
So can we then limit public comment on the next meeting?
You can't limit public comment, Chairman, if you keep the public hearing open.
David, you weigh in?
If the public hearing is open and if there's new information or there are questions about the information that has been submitted within the last few days, the public would have a right to comment on it.
Can that be limited to just new information and not rehash of old?
I wouldn't want to thread that FOI needle.
Etan?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, in terms of asking questions of the applicant, can we do that now since it's all fresh in our minds? I have
Yes, we can.
You may have some questions as well. That may also assist us if we decide to leave it open after today, at least we can get more information.
Yep, no, that's definitely legitimate. So if you would like to ask a question, go ahead.
Yes, Attorney Kasadian.
Yes.
Hi, good evening, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Probably
How are you?
tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned before something in terms of operations. It was 6 o'clock till 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. would be the operation of the business at Subway. Am I right?
Correct, but the 7 to 10 is just a skeleton shift of about 4 to 6 people.
From 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
7 p.m.
Correct.
Okay.
An inventory shift of up to 6 people.
Okay. And you said that there are something about 6 to 10 trucks.
Per day.
What did you mean by that?
6 to 10 trucks per day coming to the site, the tractor trailers.
So from 12:01 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. in a particular day, about 6 to 10 trucks would be using the facility.
Correct. Would be coming to or from the facility, right.
So then why do you need 20 bays?
So the way that, the owners of the business could probably explain it better, but the way I understand it is that the trucks come in and they might sit for a few days. The trailers will sit either being loaded or loaded for their trip to either Port Authority in New York or wherever they're going up and down the East Coast or wherever the order is. So you're not going to have 20 trucks in and out with the tractors sitting there idling every day. They'll come in, drop a trailer, that'll be filled up or unloaded, and whatever their timing is, and it's probably a sophisticated logistics schedule of delivery and of receivables. That's how that works. So that's why they need up to 20. It's not for 20 trucks all at one time. Yep.
I have one question. There was a mention of receiving and packaging of oil products. Could you explain the frequency of that or what the scope of that work is?
Sure. I don't have any knowledge of that. I'll ask someone from
whoever you have to ask. Yeah.
Thanks.
So as an e-commerce company, we obviously receive products back into the facility from our consumers. So those products are received through UPS or any sort of postal carrier. Those products are brought into the facility, handled inside the facility, put into any container or receptacle inside the facility, and then received by any sort of waste management company to be able to be recycled or taken away as appropriate.
So what are typically things that you do accept in from postal or whatever from your customers for recycling?
Any type of product that we sell, we have an opportunity to receive back. That could be, think about it in any example of Amazon. You could be buying any product. It could be a new product that you have to return back. So there is always the reverse logistics component of any order that we need to be able to facilitate.
Is there liquid oil?
Correct, yes.
And what is the approximate quantity in a given, say, month of oil that would come in or out of your facility?
I don't have the exact units. I'd have to.
I don't want an exact. I want an order of magnitude. Is it one gallon or 100 gallons or 1,000 gallons?
It'd be 200 gallons a day.
200 gallons a day. Thank you. Ed, does anybody have further questions of the
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
In handling that amount of, if that's just oil, obviously you sell other chemicals that would come back as well. In gathering those things, do you have to have some sort of state licensing to handle that material when it comes back and is stored in your facility and then leaves your facility?
We are under the thresholds for anything of substance of that sort.
So that you then have amounts that you know come in. Can you provide us with the amounts of the various types of materials that come in if they're liquid waste, or however you want to characterize them?
So there's 200 gallons of oil. We get antifreezing coolant back, and that gets recycled as well.
And you said you get 200 gallons of oil a day. What about the coolant?
10 gallons a day.
Okay.
And any other liquids besides the coolant and the oil? Is that just regular motor oil, or what is it?
It's motor oil.
Any other liquids besides the coolant and the motor oil?
Any aerosol solvents? Any kind of solvents? Liquid solvents?
No, that gets used on demand, so that doesn't come back.
I'm sorry, please don't speak out. Are you telling me it's motor oil? Would you please clarify the type of oil?
The motor oil we get back is used motor oil from customers, yes.
It's used motor oil.
Can I ask another question? Would you accept used motor oil from customers off the street going and visiting your facility? Could they drop off used motor oil to you for processing?
If they returned it in a container, yes, we would take it back.
Hold on. Wait.
Yeah, please. Well, I will clear the room if we can't just keep this to be in order.
So I have a question. All right. Largely because I'm in the automotive industry, okay? So, one, you're taking back product that you have sold because it's basically your product that you're selling out to consumers. They change, whatever, something's wrong with the oil or whatever, you're taking it back. It's not a general person walking off the street. And let me tell you, an auto dealership has way more contaminants. An auto dealership, auto repair place, they have larger containers of oil that they recycle on a daily basis. So I understand, and I'm not trying to belittle points at all. That's not. I live by the beach. I worry about contaminants all the time, but I understand. I think the point of what you're taking back and forth is getting lost, okay? We're not, like when I tell you an automotive dealership, auto repair place, they have way more contamination worries than what we're discussing right here.
Go ahead, Etan.
Ms. Austin, how many automotive dealerships are abutting a 36-acre nature preserve in the state of Connecticut?
Quite a few. In all honesty, they're all over. They're all over. You have right on Route 1, think of the swamp that's directly across the street from Chevy of Milford. Directly.
But again, I think the members of the
I'm
public,
just saying,
I
yeah.
know, I understand, but I think that's what the members of the public have concern.
No, I understand, and I was just trying to clarify a little bit of what they're really taking back versus, that's what I was trying to.
Right, but I'm confused though about the nature of their business, because I understand they're in the auto parts business. What are they doing taking back motor oil for if they're selling parts to German vehicles? They're in the parts business. They're not in the motor oil business. That's not my understanding.
Sorry, we're an e-commerce retailer that services repair and maintenance.
And
parts.
please just try to speak into the microphone. I guess we have a problem not being heard.
Sorry, we are an e-commerce provider for parts and any sort of repair and maintenance item that would be used to facilitate a car its longevity is staying on the road. So that includes brakes, that would include oil, which is essential to an internal combustion engine, that would include suspension, that would include engine mechanical components. So there's more than that demographic of what obviously keeps a car active.
Any other questions of the applicant?
Could I just be clear about something? FCP Euro is not the applicant.
Thank you for that, Etan.
I just think.
That's fine.
I just want to make clear, the applicant is.
You are correct.
The applicant.
I misspoke.
And in fact, the applicant is Subway. they own the property. I understand they have some type of a contractual relationship with Cinto, but the real party in interest, as I see it, is the owner of the property. That's how it works, and that's who has the stake in this, is the property owner. So we're really, I know we're going after FCP Euro here, but they are only the end user of this proposed development, not the actual party seeking this zone change.
Thank you. Any further questions? Mr. Sadi.
Thank you. This is still the public hearing. We have not received or heard the administrative summary yet, so I don't think that's ever been entered into the record. Maybe I forgot that that was done already, but I don't.
No, that's good as time as any. David, if you would, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Just want to make one thing clear. It was stated earlier this might be my administrative summary. It is not my administrative summary. This is the administrative summary of the DPLU, not mine. Just to let you know that we are waiting still for reports that are pending from the Conservation Commission, the Police Department, the Sewer Commission, the Tree Commission. If any of that is inaccurate, I'm sure the applicant will let us know. Now I will read to you the DPLU summary. The applicant is proposing to redevelop the Subway headquarters campus at 325 Subway into a 160,000 square foot warehouse. To accomplish this, a regulation change is being submitted along with a special permit site plan review and a lot consolidation. The review is in two parts. The first is a regulation change, and the second is for the special permit site plan review. The proposed regulation changes. The applicant is proposing to add a warehouse use to the OD office design zone through amending the zoning regulations, section 3.5, as detailed in the application. You should really look at that application and see the details. Warehouse use is recognized industrial use that is found in the following Milford industrially zoned districts: LI Limited Industrial, ID Industrial District, and HDD Housatonic Design District. Planning and zoning considerations. Industrial and residential uses are generally incompatible use types in the same zone. Residential uses other than night watchmen are prohibited in zones that currently allow warehouse uses. Those zones, as mentioned earlier, are the LI, ID, HDD zone. The OD zones allow for residential development. The application, planning and zoning, the application was submitted under the 2012-2022 POCD. The POCD did not recommend any changes to the OD zone. This application is consistent with the 2012-2022 POCD as it provides a concentration of development around transportation nodes and along major transportation corridors to support the viability of transportation options and land use. The newly adopted POCD 2023-2032 recognizes that underutilized office parks on Bick Drive and Subway and near the intersection of Wheeler's Farms Road and Wilbur-Cross Parkway could present an opportunity for new multifamily development. However, the POCD also recognizes these areas tend to lack some of the infrastructure needed to support residential development. Page 33 of the POCD is where that information is found. Section 3.5 of the current zoning regulations does not allow for multifamily development, so implementation of these recommendations to develop multifamily housing would require further amendment to the zoning regulations. The proposed POCD encourages proposed development as business industrial areas contain a mixture of uses that support Milford's economy and provide important contributions to the city's tax base. In addition to supporting well-established industries, the areas are also an excellent place for new or innovative businesses to incubate. and further expands, the city will continue to support these activities in the areas. Going forward, it is important that the standards in these areas evolve in response to changing market demands and that adequate protections are in place to maintain the character of these areas. As graphically depicted in Figure 50, the proposed POCD specifically identifies the subject location as desirable to be transitioned from an office district to a mixed use consisting of residential, business, and industrial uses. A requirement, and let me make sure I didn't miss anything. My mouse died, so I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Here we go. Requirement of Connecticut General Statutes 8-2 zoning regulations, subsection B. Zoning regulations adopted pursuant to subsection A of this section shall be made in accordance with the comprehensive plan in consideration of the plan of conservation development adopted under section 8-23. As summarized above, the DPLU finds the proposed regulation amendment and site plan special permit consistent with both the current 2022 POCD and recently adopted 2032 POCD. A review of the proposed regulation by the Regional Council of Governments is attached in response from the response from the Connecticut Metropolitan Council of Governments, MetroCog. The site plan review. This application is to be considered by the board in two parts, the regulation amendment and the site plan review. The following site plan review is provided anticipating the board's approval for the regulation amendments. Plans have been submitted to construct a 160,000 square foot warehouse, including 4,000 square feet of accessory office and 175 parking spaces. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. The applicant's statement of use has indicated that as many as 210 employees are expected to be employed with their working. Of course, when I go to move it, the page breaks. It's make it difficult. I can't get the text. Let me try changing its size here. No, I can't do that. Hold on. The applicant's statement of use has indicated that as many as 210 employees are expected to, and I apologize, it's just the way this PDF reader
Mr.
works.
Quish, Chairman Quish, excuse me, through you to Mr. Sulkus, I have a printed document.
Oh, that'd be good.
Could I pass that down to you?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And there's a verbatim copy of your administrative summary. Thank you.
Again, not my administrative summary, it's the DPLU summary. The applicant's statement of use, okay, so plans have been submitted to construct, okay. The applicant's statement of use has indicated that as many as 210 employees are expected to be employed with their working on site in 2 shifts starting at 6 and continuing until 10 p.m. Statement of use establishes the 20 loading docks supporting an average of 12 trucks per day. Staff recommends clarification as whether the 12 trucks per day is 12 truck trips per day. The proposed use will require that the 3 parcels identified as 8E, 8F, and 8G that make up the subway campus be merged into one parcel, which the applicant is proposing to do. The total size of the consolidated parcels will be approximately 10.51 acres as documented on the submitted survey. In addition to the documents that have been submitted showing the applicant's compliance with 7.2.3 subsection 2 and 7.2.1 subsection 2, the applicant has submitted a traffic evaluation letter prepared by Hardesty and Hanover LLC, transportation engineers, to assist the board in its determination that the application is not detrimental to or conflict with the flow of traffic in the neighborhood. The following issues have been or will be addressed in the most recent plan submission and should be reviewed or made or may be identified as conditions of the board's approval. One, the vicinity map on the cover sheet should show the highway exit ramp where it meets the street for the text change access ramp. I mean, that was done. Average grade shown, but the plans do not show how average grade was calculated per the grade plane average. That was part of the submission, I believe, that was made yesterday. A note is provided on SP1 stating that 18 chargers will be located in the front parking lot. However, as a condition of the board's approval, those chargers should be shown on the plan set, so it can be reviewed by the zoning permit. On yesterday's site plan submission, they did show that. The regulations, the way they're written, would indicate, would actually dictate that 18 chargers be put in place, not 9 chargers serving 18 parking spaces. So they would need to resubmit that with 18 chargers. In summary, in anticipation of the board's approval of the amended regulations, the reference site plans represent substantial compliance with the zoning regulations submitted by the Department of Permitting and Land Use.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Yep, Mr. Sadi.
Thank you very much. I've taken into consideration the comments of Mr. Kalijian, and it appears to me that we have all the matters of record. The question that we have through the chair, and I imagine maybe Mr. Sokas can weigh in, is that if that petition is acceptable, it's going to change the vote from 6 to 7. But the point is, we already have the record, and I think that Mr. Kalijian might have a very good point to consider closing the public hearing at this point.
Okay, let's have a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing, if I might, Mr. Kalijian.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. We will keep this open till the next scheduled meeting, which is the 21st.
Correct.
Okay. I will be in California. Have fun. The next...
Mr. Chairman, when we vote on this at the next meeting or whichever meeting that happens, I think we need an opinion from the city attorney as to how many votes we in fact need for passage.
That's a good point. I think the staff will have to vet that.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, Mr. Hirsch. If the petition submitted meets the requirements in our regulations, which mirror the state statutes, then you would have to have 7 votes. If it doesn't meet that requirement, then it would be the usual 6 votes.
Okay, so is that a legal question or is that a factual question?
We have to look at the petition that was submitted, and we would have to see how many of the properties, within 500 feet of the zone, are there. Do we have 20%?
Okay, so when you use the word "we," who is "we"? Is that you, or is that us on the board? Is that the city attorney's office? Who is it?
Well, typically it would be me as your city planner, but I would have to, as Mr. Crusaden did on his end, I would have to go to the assessor because they're able to do the mapping that has the properties. We'd have to look at the map, and I would, if it makes the board more comfortable, I can consult the city attorney with, whatever the information is, and we can, confirm that, in fact, it's either a valid or not a valid submission.
So whether the submission is a valid or invalid submission is a mixed question, as I see it, of fact and law. And since it is, I believe, a question of law, I would like an opinion from the city attorney.
So that David, if you would
That's fine.
please consult with the city attorney.
No problem, absolutely.
Mr. Sadi.
Thank you very much, and I know it's late, but I do know that we've been missing a member for some period of time. I hope we'll get somebody appointed in the interim, because that was an appointed seat, because it would affect the ability of the applicant to get a full board to make the appropriate decision. But I don't disagree with the chair's initial assessment that we go to the next scheduled meeting unless the applicant, over a course of time before the said meeting, determines that they may not want to go forward. They just let us know that. But that's for a different date. I don't disagree with continue it till the date that would be the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, next order of business, old business, none. Liaison report?
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Can I proceed?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I'm not sure if I did speak about this before the full board, but as
can wait.
part of the liaison group, I went on a bus tour 2 weeks ago. We hit 2 properties in Wallingford. It's about affordable housing and 2 properties in Milford. I was going to write up a report and submit it written. Not have to take too much time with you, but with the election season, I didn't have a chance to do that. But the point is that we're keeping that in mind, and there's possibly some very good ideas about that. And if you need further clarification, just let me know, and I can speak to the board members at an appropriate time in a public forum. And we have another meeting coming up on tomorrow. Thank you.
Please, we still have some other business to do, to take care of here. If you could be quiet on your way out, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. Subcommittee reports. We do have a regulation subcommittee coming up. What's the date of that?
We didn't discuss a date for that, so I would have to get back to you.
Oh, I thought we had a date.
We just had a meeting last week.
Okay. Well, I guess I was wrong. The POCD committee has been abandoned because we have...
Yeah, you've adopted the POCD, so there is no more POCD subcommittee.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Second? Second. Okay, without exception, they're approved. Chair's report, I have none. Staff?
None this evening, other than to remind you, I believe I sent you an email for a affordable housing educational opportunity, which I believe is on the 15th at the Council of Governments.
Thank you. Okay, we're adjourned.